Today, it's all about new. We've got new ship at Starbase, new landing sites on the moon, and the role of new Glenn. Or, since it's one day after Halloween, how about we be spooky and call it Glenny? Mwahaha! Roll the intro!
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
R25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane to be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome everybody to the Flame Trench. This is our regular Friday show here, where we take a little lighter look at the news that is going on in the world of spaceflight. If you want the much more serious version, you can always check out Twists This Week at Spaceflight, which released earlier today, and that is always your best place to get the good facts. Here, we have a lot of fun, and I hope I scared everyone but didn't scar everyone by bringing back Glenny's name again. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be the host for this episode of the Flame Trench, and before we release the rainbirds in here and things get spicy, let me introduce who will be joining me in the Flame Trench. Joining me today, first and foremost, we have EJ. What you reading today, EJ?
Oh, hello. I'm reading Modern Engineering for Design of Liquid Propellant Rocket Engines. That's a good book. Learn a lot in here. There's some words in there. You know, I can read like 9 words in this book now. It's great.
9 words?
It's real good.
Also, they really need to come up with a more clever title than that. Come on, someone can come up with a fun pun name for that book. Just saying.
You could just call it Bill or something.
Liquid engines go burr. There you go. I don't know. Anyway, we'll let you go back to reading for just a moment while I introduce who else is with me today, and that would be Alex. How's it going, Alex?
There we go.
Hang on.
Yeah, I couldn't reach the unmute button. Hello. Yeah, I was actually looking here at the notes for today's show. As you can see, I'm very well accompanied here by Mr. Starship launching and Mr. Booster 12 landing. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I'm really excited for what's in store for the next couple of months. As you know, you see sort of the title of the stream today. We'll talk about some of the things that are coming up and, some of the preparations for those things that are coming up. Right, Sawyer? You were talking about before Spooky Glenny.
Yeah, Spooky Glenny, exactly. And as a reminder, as we go through the topics, if you have questions about what we're talking about, tag us at NASASpaceflight, and we'll do our best to get to some of those as we go through. A reminder, though, please try and keep it on topic related to it. We will get to Starship, I promise, so save all of your Starship questions for then, because otherwise we will start getting groaning and sound effects and horns and dings and stuff from Mr. Kevin Michael Reed, who is producing our show for us today. So, let's start things off down at the Cape, my home away from home, as we talk about New Glenn, which is on the roll. New Glenn, finally, following the success of the recent NS-27 mission, making its way from their facilities across from the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex there, Exploration Park, and making its way past D, who stayed up super late to get these awesome close-up views, rolling by the VAB on its way out to Slick 36. All of this in preparation, hopefully, for a static fire very, very soon. Gotta love those BE engines on there, the 7 of those. Absolutely beautiful. Hopefully we'll see those fire up soon, because we've already seen the second stage fire up. They tested that, and as we saw on our most recent flyover, the testing stand for stage 2 is kind of just sitting there outside of the hangar, which if you haven't checked out the KSC flyover, I highly recommend it, and not just because I edited it. But yes, so that is out there to get work done. Hopefully we will see that fire up and maybe potentially a launch before the end of the year, question mark, of Dark Sky 1? We shall see. We'll talk about that amongst the team and see where we're at. But in terms of actually getting to see those engines fire up, you're telling me there's a chance. Which is also the name of the rocket, by the way. You're telling me there's a chance. So let's start then off here. We finally got to see it roll out. What are you thinking in terms of the testing timeline for when we get to see those engines fire up, and most importantly, when we get to see this thing fly? Alex, you want to start?
Sure, I can take that. Yeah, so right now, as Dave Limp said, the CEO of Blue Origin said on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, the whole deal with like what is the next step for New Glenn is, so it's already at the hangar, it's already at the pad. Now they're gonna stack both the second stage and the first stage. They're gonna put it on a transporter and roll it out to the pad and do a fully stacked. What? Why the hype train? But anyways,
Because-
they're gonna be rolling that out to the pad, and they're gonna be essentially, fueling the rocket and then firing those B4 engines on the bottom of the booster. I don't know for how long, to be fair, but probably for a few seconds, and just to get that going. And as you're gonna see very shortly here, hopefully, I'm waiting for it. Come on.
There's been
I know you have it,
little
Kevin.
minor technical things going on in the back, but Kevin
There
Michael
we
Reed
go.
is on it. He is on
I
it
was-
today.
I-
We love you, Kevin.
Yeah, I was seeing him preparing that one. So there you go. Those 7B4 engines at the bottom of New Glenn are going to be firing. Again, we don't really know the specifics of the test, only that it's going to be full stack. It's not going to be just the booster. They're going to be putting the second stage as well. They're going to integrate the two stages. They're going to be putting that on the transporter, roll it out, fuel it, and then fire the engines. Now, will that count also as a wet dress rehearsal or something like that? I have no idea. I assume that after that they're going to be rolling it back to the hangar and then put the payload on top, unless they do like a, early Falcon 9 kind of thing where they put the payload and then roll it out. It's their own payload, so maybe they take the risk to save a bit of time. To be fair, it does probably save a bit of time, because once it's already out and on the pad, well, if it's fully stacked, you don't need to roll back or anything like it unless you really need to work on the rocket, right? You can just let it out be there. I have no idea, to be fair, on when they plan to do the static fire. I will say that it's probably a couple of weeks away, just judging, by the usual timelines that we have seen in the past. And, it's probably going to take a couple of weeks for them to get through all the inspections and the final closeouts and everything for the vehicles, made them together. It's the first time they do this with an actual vehicle. It's not some Pathfinder simulator or anything like it. And so, it's going to take a while to be able to put everything together. Once they do the static fire, I also don't have any knowledge on what is going to be the timeline to a launch. I tried to ask Dave on the social media. I tried my luck, tried to fish out for some kind of more information on that. He did not say what else is going to be happening apart from that static fire test. I assume that they may want to do some testing with a payload up top. I have no idea. But that is essentially what we're looking forward to immediately. That's going to be that fueling and static fire test. I think based on all of this, I don't see a launch in November, at the earliest December, but I will say most likely January. That's at least my thinking of how it'll go. I don't know, EJ, what's your thinking here?
I mean, Blue's known for doing parallel processing. They're working on multiple things at once. It's so you're describing like one thing happening to the other. Like they're going to do this and they're going to do this and they're going to do this. They could just go put the second stage on there and then test the first stage with the second stage attached. You could save some time. It carries a little bit more risk, but you could save some time doing that. I think that is what they're going to do, and I think internally they really. This is just what I think. No one's told me anything. I think that internally they're striving to get this done, get a launch by the end of the year. So I'm gonna say the end of November. That's what I'm gonna say.
I mean, I feel like we're getting closer to a December rate at this point. I mean, we already have the mission change with Escapade coming off. And we have Dark Sky 1, excuse me, which, if I remember rightly, that's kind of like a Cert 2 where it's a fixed payload where they're not even planning on jettisoning it once it gets up into space. So
it's supposed to go into a medium Earth orbit. I don't remember exactly. It's somewhere. I have it on some of the other notes as well. But essentially a medium Earth orbit. One thing that I was just thinking about as EJ was talking about trying to get it done, I think you said before the end of the year, something like that, right? There's another thing that they probably are targeting to do, before that deadline. There's a competition. So there's the National Security Space Launch Phase 3 Lane 1. It's like this mouthful thing. In order to get a foot in those contracts, they both Blue Origin and ULA, they got, New Glenn and Vulcan in that. In the case of Vulcan, it had already launched, so it had a foot in there because it had already launched in January, and then it launched again just, like a month ago. The whole deal is that in order for the U.S. Space Force to be able to, keep the launcher in that sort of lane of contracts, they need to get a launch before, I think, December 21st of this year, if I'm not mistaken, which a lot of other companies were trying to get back in the day. Like Rocket Lab, for example, was trying to get a contract as well for Phase 3, and they were targeting, being able to get that launch before December 21st. Obviously, they did not get that. Now they're trying to get that done before the next on-ramp, which is December of next year. So in the next year or so, you're probably going to see a few other rocket companies trying to get their debut launch quickly enough so they are able to bid for these type of launches. They're very lucrative, of course, and so, it's the U.S. Space Force, a lot of money involved, and if you get a foot on that, you're not very far away from, in the future, getting the big boy contracts, which are like Lane 2, as I call them, like the big boy contracts, because it's the big satellites, the ones that are more risky and everything. So that could be another reason for them to try to target this as soon as possible, or at least, safely possible, to try to get it done before the end of the year, before also that deadline. Because if they do that, then next year they could get a contract from the U.S. Space Force to get a launch out there. So that might be also weighing, on this decision to be getting ready for launch as quickly as possible, which sometimes means you may not follow the law. and that's my segue to the next thing that Kevin has prepared here, which today apparently someone found this letter from yesterday, I guess, because that's October 31st. And apparently when Blue Origin did the whole second stage static fire test last month, or rather month and a half, on September 23rd, they did not have a permit for the deluge system. Sounds familiar, right? But yeah, so this is that letter from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And so, yeah. A bit familiar.
Or FDEP, for short. FDEP. That's what we'll call
FDEP.
it from now on. Yeah. FDEP, yes.
Or
so,
FDEP.
And so I don't know, you guys, what you think. I just it's just hilarious that, it's happened to the two big companies, right? Yeah. Blue Origin and SpaceX now as well. I will say though, the same way that I said, wow, SpaceX, they bid, they asked for this permit too late and everything. You read that letter, Blue Origin asked for this permit on May 31st of this year. It's like, seriously? You've been preparing for New Glenn to launch like almost a decade, and your launch pad has been ready for a launch for I don't know how long, and now you ask for a permit, right? Like, it's even more outrageous, at least in my opinion. Sure, they're taking a long time to approve the permit, but also at the same time, it's like, I don't know, man. You should have probably asked for this permit a long time ago. But that's my take.
So that brings in the question then, if we're talking about getting all the permits and getting everything set aside, the question with that potentially unapproved release of water for the stage 2 testing. Bunch of people asking, including Rankley here, does that mean that we'll now have to wait on an FAA license, which I'm sure if we have to wait for that will also impact when that first launch date would be?
Yeah,
EJ,
that's
what do you
another thing.
think?
Oh.
Yeah, that could mess things up. But I mean, Kevin, can you bring that letter up here real quick and just look at the contents of that letter? Because okay, if we're gonna compare apples to oranges here, we're gonna compare. I mean, obviously, compare Blue to SpaceX. All right, so we're gonna do that. I'd like to remind everybody that when SpaceX went to test their deluge system, they here, scroll down a little bit here if we can get at that. There we go.
Yeah, it says
when SpaceX went
static fire appears to constitute an intentional unauthorized discharge of untreated
Bingo.
industrial wastewater to the environment.
They
Which is very similar
applied for
to
a
what
permit.
SpaceX got.
Yeah, they applied for a permit and didn't get it. SpaceX operated their deluge system under a generalized permit. That generalized permit needed to be moved into a more individualized permit, but per the EPA, right? But they did have permission to do it. It seems like Blue was just like, send it. Send it. Like, I'm not sure if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, but from what this says here, it seems like they're like, yeah, we applied for it. And they're like, the FAA's like, you didn't get it. And they're like, yeah, so we applied for it. Like, I mean, that's just at face value, guys. Like, that's just what that says right there. I mean, unless I forgot how to read.
It's worth pointing out, this is
possible.
not the FAA. This is not the federal administration or anything. This is the state of
it's
Florida.
FDP.
And this is like a very important thing, because you always see in the comments, oh, the FAA. And it's like, no. In this case, it is the state environmental, thing, whatever it's called. It's the Environmental Protection, Department of Environmental Protection. In the case of the deluge system from SpaceX at Texas, it was also the Texas Environmental Control and Quality Department or something like that. So it was also a state agency, right? Later, the FAA got mad because it was like, dude, you're asking for a launch license and you don't have all your permits in place, right? And so that's where, they had this whole delay and everything. But this is also something that is at a state level, something that is also an issue. It's not just federal, but also state level. And so I think, that's very important to also mention, because in this case, I have not seen anything from the FAA, probably something that we should email the FAA about, right? If this is Adrian, somebody. But yeah, I think Adrian has already been crowned as the FAA as a questioner, asker, I don't know. But yeah.
The Whisperer.
He's
the FAA Whisperer.
The person at the FAA is ready to block his emails for.
So, I mean, yeah. So, sorry, I misspoke before when I said FAA, but they're dealing with a state environmental protection agency here, not the EPA. But yeah, it seems like, I mean, even SpaceX, when they tested their deluge system, they were operating under a general permit. Everybody agreed, SpaceX included, that they needed a more individualized permit, but they were allowed to work with that general permit, right? They were allowed to do that. It's like I said, it seems like Blue is just like, yeah, we'll beg for forgiveness later, which actually is like using it without a license, from what I can tell. Like, that's not good if that's what's going on. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, that's probably not what you want, but yeah, I mean, that's okay, well, I'm not really sure what to do because everybody's like, oh, SpaceX launched without a license, they're going to get in all this trouble. Well, they didn't. They had a general permit. This is a scenario where it's kind of unprecedented. I don't really know what's going to happen here. It's very interesting. I'm going to need some time to noodle on this one.
So here's the
Noodle
real
to
question
noogle.
then. Noodle
Noogling.
or
I'm gonna have-
nooglin? Noodle
We're
noodle?
going to have time to nooglin. We're going to nooglins on this. Yeah.
But here's the real question then, because we've always talked about the FAA delaying SpaceX launch and things like that, and the lawsuit they had there. But do you think this could come back and bite them in the aft? Do you think that this will delay the launch?
Man, I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah.
I know you did. That's why I worded it that way.
Yeah. No, that was good. That was good. Do I think it's going to mess with them? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a good chance.
that I don't know, man. We all thought that SpaceX was kind of screwed because of what was going on with the FAA, and we were all expecting a launch in November, and then it didn't happen. It would happen in October. It happened in the middle of October, right? So, it might not be that big of a deal. It might be a big deal. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not the best one to probably talk to when it comes to environmental protection. I can tell you how the rocket engine works, right? But once again, I'm not that well versed in environmental law, right? I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some nerd that likes reading about rocket engines. I mean, so you guys as well, right? We don't know. This could be a big deal. Is it a big deal? Might not be a big deal. Maybe there's is there a problem because they discharge wastewater into a wildlife sanctuary, like the Merritt Island Wildlife Sanctuary? Does it count? Is Cape Canaveral Space Force Station even part of the Merritt Wildlife Refuge? We don't know. There's a bunch of questions that I actually really would like the answer to.
Yeah.
That's a lot of gift memberships. All right, Miss Daisy. Yeah.
I'm in
All right.
that same boat as you in the terms that, I know of what I know and I know how to read and I read that letter and it says what it says, right? And that's
Wait,
all I can
really?
tell you. I cannot say, oh, the FAA will maybe. That's why I said, call Adrian and maybe we'll send an email and try to ask them, is this really an issue to get that launch license? I have no idea, right? In the case of SpaceX, it seemed to have been an issue because you even had the administrator saying at one point they applied for a launch license without having all the permits in place, so they violated that, and we needed to redo environmental approvals and whatnot. And on the launch license, if you look at it, I think one of the requirements is precisely that SpaceX needs to tell the FAA every X amount of time how their permits are doing and stuff like that. They really got that into the license precisely to keep SpaceX in check, so to speak, right? Because they were like, dude, what are you talking about? So it could also bite Origin in the aft, I guess. But I have no idea. That's something that we'll have to either figure out as things progress, or maybe once everything comes out, just like the last time when SpaceX got the launch license, a bunch of paperwork came out about that process of what was going on behind the scenes, and you could see the letters, the FAA themselves saying, hey, can we speed up the process? Is there a way? So they did an informal process instead of a formal process, whatever. Bunch of talks that we had about that back in the day, but essentially they were trying to get things a little bit faster. Maybe they do the same with Blue. I have no idea. I believe it was Christian Davenport who said that maybe a November approval will not come by, but maybe before the end of the year. I have no idea if that's
That was
if that's
Christian
true.
Davenport.
Yeah.
I mean, so okay, fellas, you want to think about this, right? Alex, you were saying that they were trying to get this launch off because of NSSL phase 3 lane 1 by December, right? So we know that from Das's video where he talked to the gentleman from the FAA, we know from that video that sometimes the Department of Defense can shoulder the risk involved here. Now, whether that risk has anything to do with environmental protection, we don't know. Because that really falls more in line with, right? It falls more in line. I got a out of Alex.
Yeah.
That means I'm on the right track.
I would
right?
not see the Space Force doing something like that. They did not do that with Vulcan either. Vulcan's two
Right.
first flights were
Mhm.
licensed by the FAA, for example. It was not a lot, even though they were certification flights for the U.S. Space Force, they were not licensed by the Space Force. They were licensed by the FAA. You can
Yep.
look that up on the FAA website. It's there on the list of licensed launches. And speaking of Vulcan, I believe Kevin, because I'm seeing the the what he has prepared there. You can see, the machine just keeps flowing. There are more B4 engines being produced for future Vulcan flights, and that should be for Flight 5, if I'm not mistaken, because they are preparing Flight 3 coming up soon. That will be a Space Force launch, by the way. That will not be licensed by the FAA. And then there's another Space Force launch after that. And Flight 6, so those two are already at the Cape. One is already stacked on the pad, the other one is on a hangar. And then I'm mostly sure that's for Flight 6 of Vulcan. No, Flight 5. Flight 5. That. I'm thinking about Starship.
So here's the interesting thing then, while we're talking about that. I mean, flat out, when this happened to SpaceX, they came out the door saying that was potable water. They were fighting it tooth and nail. I feel like we get such a different PR perspective from SpaceX going out and posting it on X versus what we have here with ULA with their observation even, and now this potentially with Blue Origin. I'm interested to see what they end up doing PR-wise. I mean, they're two totally different ball games we're talking about here, right?
It's a good question, Sawyer. I mean, we know that Blue has been, ever since, Jeff stepped down from CEO at Amazon and started working over at Blue a lot more, right? And bringing Dave Limp in as the CEO, they've been a lot more transparent about what they're doing. Maybe we'll get maybe we'll get a couple spicy posts from Blue like we did with SpaceX. Who knows? I mean, my gut's kind of telling me that they probably won't do that, but who knows? We might. I mean, it's kind of a curveball. We kind of don't really know what to expect, right? Because I got a
groan.
Eric Fraser in chat is thinking about the thing that I'm thinking about. I was laughing because I was thinking of Jeff Bezos putting in the Washington Post something like new Glens are meant to fly or something like that. I'm sorry.
Hey,
It
he's
will
not
be
wrong.
hilarious. It will be very, very funny. I'm not gonna lie, right? But yeah, I mean, it's quite different, right? With SpaceX, we got barrage of tweets and updates on their website and everything, all about letting Starship fly and everything. Will Blue Origin do something like that? I have no idea. To be fair, I don't know.
My gut's telling me no. Even through changes in CEO, Blue's always carried themselves with and I'm not saying that SpaceX doesn't either. They're always, if something like this happens, they're just like, and to be fair, SpaceX was like that for the longest time, and until we started getting those long, very informative posts from the SpaceX account on X, the Everything app. So I don't know. It's kind of a curveball, but I'm gonna go ahead and guess that they're probably not gonna say nothing. But that's just a guess. I don't know.
That's definitely something we shall see.
Right.
I think we have some time for a couple quick viewer questions here before we move on.
I do too. Let's go.
So let's see. Here's one from the name's Dave. I'm guessing their name is Dave. Do we still get clues with NOTAMs and flight restrictions for the area around New Glenn for static fires and launches? Alex?
For launches, there should be some notices and everything. I believe for static fire though, you will only see notices like within the Cape. So you'll have probably like a blast danger area kind of thing around the pad, and that will probably include some of the places near the skid strip, for example, which is very close to the pad as well. So maybe if we see that for a while, we don't see any military planes landing there, maybe that's a clue. I have no idea, to be honest. That will probably mean that we'll have to track all of the people. But one way that you can track that though is watching Space Coast Live, because we have a camera pointed at the pad. So whenever that thing rolls out, we're gonna see that. We'll also have to
Nice
try, and guess when things are happening. Like, oh, there's a flare stack activating, or some vent here, some vent there. It'll be, like the early days of Starship tank watching, I guess.
Yes, the Space Coast tank watchers.
T-minus 10 minutes siren. There you go. That's a live camera. Yeah. We'll have that. The rocket is funny because those two towers that you see there, the rocket once rolled out and fully vertical there, it looks tiny because those two towers, the one on the left is even taller than the Starship tower. It's huge.
They're
I
massive.
don't even know why they built it so large, but I guess they were thinking of bigger rockets in the future. I guess.
Well, yeah, because
Looks
New
like
Glenn is pretty big as is. The whole having something lightning hitting the highest point, having something taller up, and all of that. But yeah, they're in case you haven't seen them. Yeah, if you get to the Cape, at least go down to Jetty Park or somewhere like that. You'll get the real scale of holy cow, those are tall towers.
I mean, isn't that water tower the tallest water tower ever made? Ever? Pretty sure that's what Jeff Bezos said. He said that in Tim Dodd's interview video, he said that that's the tallest water tower ever.
You don't count the Starship launch tower as a water tower. Anyways.
What?
Oh my god, that's a whole nother debate. Jeez.
Yeah, it's a very old joke. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I get it. All right.
And then
I mean,
I guess we'll see if the permitting then or any of that delays the stage 1 hot fire. I don't think it will, because Carson Phillips, I wonder who that is, saying, do we think stage 1 hot fire will be delayed longer than they expected as a result of all this? Or is it they're just going to hot fire it anyway at this point and deal with the consequences for launch?
I can see Dave Limp, at the door of the hangar. All right, boys, we'll deal with that later. I don't know. Like that could be a thing. They did it with the second stage. Why not with the first? Right?
Yeah,
Sure.
but now everybody knows that they did it with the second stage, man. Right? Like now everybody knows. Like now everybody's eyes are on this. So maybe not.
So, yeah. I mean, they do have one thing going for them, and I have to point this out from, I don't know if Kevin's got the button ready for it or not, but they may be able to get away with it because of a message we have here from a certain Ninja Decimator. There it is. Saying, will New Glenn be delayed because they didn't file it correctly? See, the issue is they said that the issues with New Glenn. As Ninja Decimator points out, it's Glenny.
Come on, Lucy.
There's your difference. Glenny's, oh no! The nuke button!
Oh my god!
Kevin hit the nuke button, no!
Oh dear!
I'm sorry, what? Why am I in jail?
You're in stream jail now.
Why me? I only said it because there was a certain somebody in the back channel saying, mention Glenny, mention Glenny.
Oh, they set you up. You got John DeLorean.
All right, you know what? I'm now anti-Glenny. There's no command in chat.
Everybody's
for
freaking
Glenny.
out in chat.
There is a command, by the way, now. I saw NASASpaceflight official created it. For Glenny. So, Kevin, do I get out of Glenny jail yet?
No.
Please?
Did you see, like, I was just thinking, did you get this jail thing when you say Glenny like 3 times or something like that?
Like Beetlejuice.
Like Beetlejuice? Because, and that made me think about Julia. She dressed up as a FAA inspector or something like that. Yeah, that was funny.
Let me out! Thank you, Kevin. Oh, gosh. All right. While I'm out of jail, let me thank some people here. While I'm on parole.
Yeah, you better
Amy
watch
Wood,
yourself.
thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Miss Daisy, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships, which apparently was the result of me making the aft end pun. Darth Lawrence, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Corporal Daywalker, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Remember, Capcom and above gets access to the NSF Discord, including the pre and post show for The Flame Trench. So definitely check that out. Space Pope.
Oh, you said the name of the show. Nice.
I said the thing.
You said the thing.
Space Pope. The Space Pope. Saying, bless this trench with a $50 super chat. Holy cow, thank you very much.
Do we have a permit for this deluge of support?
Can you put Alex behind the bars, please?
Yeah, please do that.
He just gets a groan and I get thrown in jail? Come on, that's not fair.
I did not say the wrong word.
I demand an attorney. I want a lawyer. Better call Saul. Let's see, Ninja Decimator again. Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Eric Frazier, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Phil with the Yak Kilt Fund. Love the trench. Thank you. Ethereal Swordsman saying, is DOS ready to become the Kitten Space Academy? Oh, gosh. Spherical Gentleman, thank you for the support.
Hey, Sawyer, hold on one second. Did Ethereal Swordsman just say Kitten Space Academy?
Yes.
It's Kitten Space Agency.
But he's the KSA, it's the Kerbal Space Academy.
Yeah, okay, I get the joke now. I get it.
I'm
Also,
sorry.
Isn't there a game
You
coming
have been
up
on
called
Twitch as long as
PSA
DOS
2?
has.
Well,
there is Alex Sawyer. What did you say?
I said, haven't you been on Twitch as long as DOS? It was EJSA and the Kerbal Space
Longer.
Academy were the 2 OGs.
I started streaming December 23rd, 2012.
Yeah. Oh,
I've been coming to the same party for the last 12 years, and that is in no way sad.
anyway. Do not put me in jail for this, Kevin. I am just quoting. Just quoting Musical Wolves.
Do it.
quotes.
Do it. Do it.
Long live Glenny. Also, love how closed caption's an option. Will New Glenn likely do an RTLS in the future? I don't know. I think
Should not.
probably not, but
I think they're doing all drone ship landings.
Jeff said they may try in the future, maybe if it makes sense for some missions. But that was in Tim's interview, right there at KSC. But they're only doing drone ship landings. It makes sense because most of the missions, especially Kuiper flights, those are probably going to use all the Leo performance. That's like 40 tons or something like that to low Earth orbit. That's a lot of mass to low Earth orbit.
yeah.
Hey, I'm being told in the back channel that chat is demanding me to go in jail. No. I just made a pun. I can take like a pun token or something like that. No jail.
Come on, received.
Oh, come on.
Yes!
I did not say Glenny, but I can say it now because I'm
You
in
just
jail.
did.
Just
so
did.
Who
You
cares?
just did.
Who cares now? I can say Glenny.
Put him
Same as-
behind the bars.
Now every single time that Jack says something, I reply saying the same thing, but with a Y at the end. Like when he calls me an abandoner, I say that he's an abandonee.
I'm sorry,
And
I
a
can't hear
traitor?
you from
No,
behind you.
he's a tradie.
I can't hear you from behind your
And
jail
instead
cell.
of
Sorry.
doing a battery swap, he's doing a battery swappy. That's
Isn't
what he
bad that
gets.
I really can't wait
We're
to do
doing
this
all
to
of this.
Jack.
It's his fault.
I can't wait till Jack ends up behind the bars. It's gonna be great. Anyway. Finally on this one, Ben Creasy saying, pointing out that Stage 2 RUD happened behind closed doors initially. It is true, we will see though. And in case you're wondering what they did in terms of the damage after that Stage 2 RUD and after the hurricane, check out the KSE flyover. Yes, I'm really going to be pushing this all show because I worked so hard on it and I want everyone to watch it, so please enjoy.
I was
Anyway,
gonna say.
let's move along.
Hey, back up. Back
I was
up,
gonna
man.
say that didn't last too long under behind closed doors because the door blew out.
Oh, okay, that was good.
It literally was blown out.
All right, pun token awarded. That one was actually very good. Hey, look at that. That's from the KSE flyover.
And speaking of
Again,
things blown out, they also got, from Hurricane Milton, they had, one of these buildings that they were building, I guess, was blown over.
Hi, Max. But yeah, so definitely worth checking out. And as Max and Dee and Julia fly up, let's talk about not launches, but landings. As we have a potential for whenever the heck this actually happens, landing sites for Artemis 3 EJ.
All right. Well, NASA released a refined assessment of potential landing sites near the South Pole of the Moon. There's a bunch of different places they could go, but it is really cool to see that in more than 5 decades they're actually looking to do this. Like, we always kind of think of Artemis 3 as this kind of abstracted thing, like, oh, it'll happen. It was going to be 2024, now it's going to be 2020. Now it's going to be 20. But them showing where they want to go and where they want to land is super, super, super cool. It's a good step in the right direction, and it's maybe we can finally get that whole go back to the moon thing going. This is a good step in that right direction. Now, the areas that they did select will be investigated for future investigated through scientific engineering and study, and they will be they're going to continue surveying potential areas around the South Pole, but these are really the spots that they kind of tuned in on the most. Now, if you kind of look at this picture over here, it's very interesting. Like, I know people are going to ask, like, why did you choose these spots? These are all random. Why not just land right on the South Pole? Why not just land right in the center? Well, you got to remember, like, they want to, obviously, I mean, any Kerbal player knows you kind of want to land where some place is flat. That's probably useful. Remember, this is going to land in HLS. Probably want to pick some area that's not, on the side of a hill, right? But also, you have to find a relatively flat area that's also near the darkness, the perpetual darkness, because that's where the water is. That's where we think. Maybe we should send a rover up there, to go and look around to see where the water. No. You know what? Scratch that. That's a bad idea. Let's send a brick instead. Yeah, that'll be better at doing that. Yeah, that'll be better. Sorry.
You brought it up, not me.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, I know I did. I know I did on purpose. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah. Sending a brick? Really? Sending a brick. Anyway.
In the shuttle.
Not you.
It was a break.
I would prefer that, to be honest with you.
And for all mankind, it goes to the moon. If they can do it there.
And see, that's, as Ryan Caton pointed out on the back channel, that is another one of the landing concerns, is being far enough away from the Soviet Zvezda base for all mankind also.
Someone asked in chat if the Shackleton crater was still in the cards. It appears that the new set of landing sites does not include that crater, so that's out of the question.
Yeah.
But could be a future Artemis mission,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you got to get near that perpetual darkness because that's where they think the water ice is on the moon. It's an area on the moon that never sees sunlight. That's where we think the water is, or that's where the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is able to detect trace amounts of it. It's at the poles of the moon. So these landing sites are simultaneously in a flat spot that kind of has to be near darkness, but also they're looking at areas where they can drive a rover around. Areas that make it these darker areas kind of accessible. Like you don't want to land on a flat rim of the crater and have to like drive off of a cliff to go get down to the water, right? Unless anybody wants to go like rappelling down a crater, like in For All Mankind, you want a place that's kind of easily accessible, particularly by rovers, so you could get equipment down there to get at that water ice, right? But it is cool either way to see them selecting landing sites. I just think you could probably hone in on this if you sent a rover up there.
One of the things that has me really interested or excited, I guess, is that even more recently, I believe there was this sort of discovery of it was not that water was present in great concentrations, but it was present even on sunlight areas near the south pole of the moon. So this is very promising because it probably means that in the shadowed craters, there's a lot more than we even think about, right? Like maybe there's ice on the surface, but maybe if you dig down, there might be even more. Because if even on the sunlight areas, you can find maybe it's like 5% concentration, maybe less than that. I believe it's somewhere around that concentration. But that's enough that if you dig around and maybe if you dig down a little bit more where the temperature might be lower, you could find ice deposits in theory, right? Like it's very promising. And who knows, maybe in the future we'll get a lot of more ice in places that we don't even know right now, right? Sort of like on Mars, there's places where, near equatorial sites, it's true that they've seen like potential deposits of ice deep in the crust near the equator, and it's like, well, that's very promising because it doesn't mean that we need to go all the way to the poles to get a lot of this water, right? Or other kinds of icy materials such as carbon dioxide, which is also present as ice, at least on Mars. So yeah, as you were mentioning, you need a flat or relatively flat area to be able to land on, but it's also close to the locations that you want to go to. So it's very complicated. Like I don't envy these people because it's probably very hard to balance those two things. Where it's like you need a safe place to land, but also the places that you want to go are very complicated to reach because it's literally the depths of these craters and everything. It's not an easy place to go to, and so we'll see what which one will be the last one. But if you have some preferred location on the moon, don't fret. There's gonna be a bunch more missions, and hopefully will not be the end of it all, just like it was with Apollo. So plenty of exploration.
Just in case anybody's wondering why I'm a little salty about this, NASA had a contract for under a program called Commercial Lunar Payload Services. And the idea was to kind of do precursor missions to landing people on the moon. Get rovers down to the surface. Inspect the areas, look around, look for a good landing site, look where there's maybe find some water, right? Kind of the things that we need to do, similar to the Surveyor program during Apollo, right? One of the missions is called Viper. And it was a prospecting rover that, as of right now, as of November 1st, 2024, it was a prospecting rover that was supposed to go around and look for water ice, which could help with finding a good landing spot, a good place to set up shop on the moon, right? NASA decided to cancel it. No, not Congress. NASA decided to cancel it. And to fulfill the contracts with the lander that they're sending, which is an astrobotic lander, they deemed it because of cost overlap to other programs. They deemed it more cost effective to send a brick, a giant piece of metal, in the place of the rover. The rover is finished, by the way. Yeah, they finished it. It's done. It's completed. It's sitting in a box, ready to go. Can you understand why this is a little infuriating?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to prime everybody on why you're just a little salty on this one. It's great that they're choosing landing sites, right? But also at the same time, if you sent something up there and landed it and went and looked around for where, the stuff that you need to make the base work is, you might find a better place for your base that you want to put down in the first place. And then go lay by the bay and make things out of clay. You just may. What do you say?
Nay, apparently, if you're NASA. But, here's the thing. It is worth noting, for those who don't know with Viper, the reason that they canceled it was due to cost overruns. It did go way over budget, and basically there's kind of like a red line monitor, so to speak, for it, where if it passes a certain percentage over budget, they basically go for the insta-axe. So that's kind of what happened here. It went above a certain point, even though it was so close to done. They basically said, you know what, this is super expensive. To finish it, still going to cost more money, so forget it, let's scrap it. And instead of having Viper, we'll have, a mass simulator.
It is true though that on the other hand, part of like they're not just going to be throwing that on the trash. So they have two options. One of the options was to get the parts, the instruments, and then put them on other missions separately instead of being on the rover, which I think it's very silly in my opinion. But on the other hand, they had the option, since it's very close from being launched and everything, like it's very ready for from very close from being ready. So the other option was to just sell it to a private company that they can then launch, and then the data they can, either give it to NASA, which is like, should have done that from the start, I guess. But sure, or fly like other instruments that they may want to fly on the rover and things like that. And I believe there were already a few companies out there, Astrobotic and Intuitive Machines. Both of them have built landers to go to the moon. One did land on the moon, sort of, and then the other one, well, they tried at the very least, but unfortunately did not get even, anywhere close to the moon. And so they are both building or developing larger landers. One of them, Astrobotic, they were the ones that were contracted to land Viper on the moon, actually, with their Griffin lander. Instead of the Peregrine lander, which was the smaller one. They have this bigger one that was going to be able to land that rover. Intuitive Machines, they have their smaller Nova C lander, but they're building a bigger one as well. And their plan, under their sort of, proposal, they also want to be able to land that rover on their own time. I believe the timeline for that will be in 2027, which is 2 years later than originally planned for Viper. But still, at least it will be used, right? It will not be left to rot in some hangar, or their parts being taken out and flying in some makeshift, in some, like, I don't know, putting some drill on the side of a lander or something like that. Like, it will be properly used in its form.
Yeah, but it's not though. It's not though. That whole proposal that NASA rolled out, it says take all the sensing equipment off Viper and put it on the Prime mission, which is a lander, not a rover. So what happens if you don't land anything near water ice? Well, guess what? All that water ice sensing equipment that you have is now useless. It's not the same. Look, this is tone deaf. It's tone deaf. Are you kidding me?
That's the one about taking the instruments. The one I'm talking about is taking the rover itself and putting it on the lander and land it, and then roll the rover and everything, like actually using the rover.
Wait, I'm confused. Say that again.
The proposal from Intuitive Machines, it's to actually launch it
to
and
use it.
land
Okay,
it,
cool.
Properly, not take the instruments. That was the other version, like the other option that NASA had.
I got my proposals confused there for a second. NASA's proposal is what I said, but Alex's proposal with Intuitive Machines is way better.
Yeah, and Astrobotic is also saying, hey, we can also launch it completely. We were already planning to do this. Like,
I just, I don't understand. Like, I get it, going over budget and over funding and over. Okay, all right. I got a question here. And Alex, sorry, I got my proposals wrong there for a second. I had to remember. Thank you for the refresher. Listen to Alex, guys. He knows what he's talking about. I get it. It went over budget. It went over budget. It went a little bit over budget. It went a little bit, at what point do you it's finished. The thing is finished. Yeah. Oh no! Well, we can't. We gotta. Well, we have rules here. We have rules here. Like, what do you mean you have rules here? It's finished. Put it on a rocket.
With
send it to the moon. Are you serious? Like, how is sending a block of metal a better solution? How is even pawning it off to the commercial contractors a better mission? The whole point of commercial lunar payload services is implied in the name. it gets the NASA payloads to the moon. Which goes back, it kind of feeds into another question that I have here. How the heck did you know how much Viper was going to cost? How do we know that somebody didn't just screw up the cost projection? You know what I mean? Like, how do you?
Big screw up though.
What's that?
That would be a big screw up though.
Yeah, I know. Weird, right? How much do you know? When's the last rover that NASA made for the moon? I'm pretty sure it was the lunar rover from the Apollo missions.
I don't even know if they made it.
Yeah. GM made those. If you really want to know, right? So how can you be sure? How can you be certain how much this is going to cost? Something you've never made before, right? So you're going to go buy a Ferrari. Can you tell me how much that's going to cost with variable rates on insurance and how, insurance, cost of ownership, excise tax, like how that all goes to get, you can get a good idea, right? Because other people have bought Ferraris, but if nobody else has ever bought a Ferrari, you're not going to be able to tell me how much it's going to cost, right?
Oh, thank you for offering to buy me one, EJ. I will certainly take you up on it.
Yeah. I'll buy you a little die-cast model, you know what I'm saying?
Not the same. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, but sorry, but right, Forza Ferrari. That's right.
Hi,
Anyway, yeah, Jake. Yeah, see, Jake likes Ferrari
cute.
too.
Jake agrees, yeah.
So, you're gonna set up. It's like shooting yourself in the foot. You want to go through the study to get all these lunar landing sites, but the rover that's going to help you find better lunar landing sites. No, we don't need that. We don't need that. All that, it's hilarious to me that you cite cost. They cite cost for that. Oh, it went over budget. We have rules here. We went over budget. Yeah. Guess what? Now you just made it harder to find lunar landing sites. It's going to be harder to pick one. And what if you go and you pick the wrong one? What happens when that gets too expensive because you landed in the wrong spot? I'm not saying that NASA would or wouldn't. I'm just saying it's going to improve your odds. Yeah, I get it. It went over budget. I understand. And they pulled the plug on it because it went over budget, right? But also at the same time, like, all this is going to do is have repercussive effects because you're lessening the odds of having a favorable landing site. That makes no sense. All that's going to do is make stuff more expensive down the road because you're not figuring out exactly where you want to go. It's kind of leaving it up to chance. Now, I'm not saying we couldn't use the LRO, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, to do it. That's what we've been doing. But why would you want to leave stuff open like that when we choose to go back to the moon? Why would you want to leave it open? That makes no sense. I'm sorry. We were talking about lunar landing sites. Sorry, I just thought I'd bring that to the table, guys, because it's a little ridiculous, don't you think?
I mean, you made a good point with Viper. I'm thinking we need, like an Apollo 12 style mission where you had Surveyor land. I forget which one it was, but Surveyor landed there. So Apollo 12 got super close to it and were able to then literally go pick it up and get science from it and bring parts of it back to Earth and learn so much about the radiation exposure on the moon. Imagine that, being able to have Viper, like you mentioned, go out, find an area that has all of this water or water ice potentially. It finds it, and then you compare what you bring back with a physical sample to what you're able to get from your instruments on board, and just even find out how accurate your instrumentation is. I mean, there's so many positives to it. I guess the only negative, again, is cost, and also the cost to then launch it. But if you're going to come up with an entire commercial lunar program here, if you've got clips, use it. Yeah, it's expensive.
Right.
But at this point, you've already put the cost in. I'm with you. It's kind of frustrating.
It's finished, dude.
And also, by the way, very appropriate choice of background for you, EJ. I'm not sure many people know what that is behind you, because there was a question that someone asked of, about the potential for it launching on SLS, and if that could have been a delay.
Viper on SLS?
I know, but...
No. It was supposed to launch on a Falcon Heavy.
Right.
Because the lander was going to launch on a Falcon Heavy.
Yeah.
And, the rover was going to go on top of the lander, of course.
But yeah, that is a part of SLS behind you. For the lunar landings, in fact.
Yep, 3 and 4.
Right, EJ?
If you guys are... Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you guys are familiar with Smarter Every Day, fantastic YouTube channel, right? Destin had a video a little while back where he talked to a bunch of people that are kind of in charge of, figuring out where NASA, like their integrated spaceflight architecture over the next however many years. And Destin basically said that we have this architecture that's kind of all over the place, and it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more difficult to do. We're trying to not do Apollo over again, right? As Alex was saying, we're trying to differentiate that so we can make going to the moon more sustainable, not something that you just pull the plug on, right? So, in that video, he talks about how the architecture is a lot more complicated. If it's a lot more complicated, you really have to try and improve your odds of success as much as you can every time. We're using a way more complicated architecture to go to the moon than the last time in the name of sustainability. That's going to require a ton more testing. That's going to require a lot more missions, right? So, it's hilarious to me, but yet in the same breath, you have this like, no, we don't need to send the prospecting rover. We'll figure it out. Like, even though it's built, right? This is the kind of stuff that I think
expensive, because it's like, I'm seeing that video right now, and it's awesome.
Dude, it's a beast. Okay, all right. People are going to hate me for this. I don't think SLS is expensive. Yeah, I said it, and I mean it.
Ding, ding.
You can laugh.
But okay,
you can laugh all you want.
Can you? There you go. So behind you is the engine section of Artemis 3 and Artemis 4. Behind me is the 5th flight of Starship. Okay, like since that thing flew, the one that we're showing here, which is, mind you, 2 weeks from now, 2 years ago, that thing has already flown 5 times, right? And it's about to fly a 6th time. So, like, let's be real. It's expensive, and it flies super less often, I guess. But it's cool. Like, that's exactly what I'm mad about. Like, why on earth was this a thing, right? Like, why was, like, yeah, I know why. And it's like a rhetoric kind of question, right? Jobs program and whatnot. But one of my problems with this whole Viper thing is that it was over budget by $84 million. 84. A bolt on that mobile launcher too is probably as much as that, right? It's like that already tells you what I think.
So you think that fixed pricing development of lunar rovers is a bad idea?
It's not that. It's that so NASA has to fight for it, because the other option of not canceling it was to ask Congress, hey, please, okay, give us more money for this. Just like they did with James Webb. James Webb got to a point where it was over budget because it had the same sort of contracting method where if it passed a certain threshold, it would have been canceled. Instead, NASA begged Congress, please, oh please, give us more money, and we, rebudget everything and try to get it on, under that new budget. Thankfully, they got the extra money, they rebudgeted the whole thing, and it flew. But it was very close from canceling as well. Psyche came close as well from being canceled because it was delayed, and that delay made it also be over budget. A bunch of science missions have either been very close or actually been canceled by just a few $1 million, which on other programs, nobody's mad at. I mean, I'm mad about that. And we sort of look at, Mobile Launcher 2 being $2 billion in price. And it's like, with that over budget from just one single program, you could have probably done a bunch of other science programs that we're talking about, right? That are either delayed or over budget by just a little bit compared to these other programs. And that's what makes me mad about that NASA has to beg for that money instead of just being that easily available, because it is easily available for other programs. And that's I want them to be able to do more things.
Maybe they shouldn't fix price fund development. That's probably a problem there. Don't you think? Why are our cutting edge scientific missions done on a fixed price? Why is that a good idea? I contend to say that creates this problem. Are we gonna go? Are we gonna go explore? Because guess what? The second we send anything past low Earth orbit, the price is going to get expensive unless we do it more, right?
Oh yeah,
why are we?
well,
Go ahead.
and your thing. I don't want.
Oh, I mean, we're going to do it more. Why are we fixed pricing these rovers? Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that. In the flip side of that is that you could get the cost to spiral out of control, and then you get a $2 billion mobile launcher. I understand that, right? But what fixes that problem? Scheduling milestones and deadlines. Why don't we use that to hold these missions accountable and not funding? Why the heck would you fixed fund something you don't know how to do? That's like, why are we funding this stuff this way? It should be the reverse, right? With SLS, like you should have fixed pricing for SLS for operational missions, not necessarily for development. But like if you're doing a one-time mission like this, an a la carte mission like Psyche or Lucy or Viper or New Horizons, pick one, right? Why are we funding it on a fixed price? Because it's a cutting-edge scientific mission that nobody's ever done before. How much do you know it's going to cost? How much do you know? How do you know how much it's going to cost? Like, what does that even mean? Right? Like, and don't get me wrong. Like, these programs shouldn't spiral out of control. But Viper was over by $85 million. You said that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing. We just put a price on scientific understanding on lunar exploration inadvertently there, and the scientific understanding that we're going to get from going back to the moon apparently is worth $85 million to somebody. That's it. I think putting a price on science like that is stupid. I don't know, just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. The only thing that I will take away from that is that, I can understand, and like this is with my whole heart out to all the engineers there. We are humans, right? We are not able to perfectly predict how things will cost in the end because there are always issues, especially as you mentioned, when things are done for the first time. Sometimes you get these issues. And for example, in the case of the Mobile Launcher 2, Bechtel also had the problem of NASA interceding throughout the development and saying, hey, we need to change this, we need to change that. And Bechtel was like, well, if you want to change that, it's going to cost you, right? Like, that's also a problem that's there as well. And so, but that's one thing. And the other thing is, what kind of price do we want to put to these kinds of things? Do we forgive an $84 million overrun? No, but somehow we do for billions of dollars on other contracts, right? It's like, so, and sometimes we even give pluses to these other companies, like Boeing gets pluses and things like that for cost plus contracts, because they, like, that's from the OIG reports where they say multiple times these companies should not be given these bonuses when they don't perform as they should, right? Like, that's common sense. One thing is, again, Viper, it had to go through COVID issues, and then the lander, which is completely out of the Viper team's hands, right? It's not a thing that they control. They had this issue that Peregrine was not working, and so they needed more testing on the lander itself. So that delayed the launch to 2025, and that delay, plus the other stuff, made this over budget of $84 million. And so it's like, should we not forgive those kinds of things? Do we really need to cancel outright these programs that are very, very close from being completed, right? It's like, that's a moral dilemma, I guess, but that's my
It's not a moral dilemma. You're not funding your programs correctly. Your contract structuring is wrong. And that's why I think that, like, I know people are going to say, like, oh, you're coping, man. No, that's why they don't think SLS is too expensive. What is it too expensive compared to?
I think it will not be as expensive. Sort of like the shuttle. The way that SLS, cost works actually is that you have a set funding for the whole year, and however many launches you get in that year, that's what they cost. It's sort of spread over the whole year. In the case of the space shuttle program, the lowest cost was when they launched the most. And so the more that you launch, you have a set price, right? And the more that you launch, the less cost that you incur per launch. The problem of SLS is that, as you can see behind you, those are the core stage engine sections of Artemis 3 and 4. They're now being put together for a launch, whoever knows when, right? Like, it's this problem of low cadence, not being able to be produced at cadence. which is sort of also my problem as well. I was looking at that footage that we were looking at from Artemis 1. It's a gorgeous rocket. It's very powerful and has a lot of capacity. If we could just launch it more times, it will at least be maybe worth the price, right? It's like, if we could take more advantage of that, it will not cost as much. But unfortunately, here we are.
Yeah. It's infuriating. I agree. I mean, it feels like at this point NASA is trying to pawn everything off on commercial programs for all of this. Hey, commercial lander, cool. Hey, commercial lunar exploration, awesome. As long as we don't have to build it and we don't have to budget it, we can just give you the money and say, hey, we did our job, and that's it. That's just what it feels like.
Yeah, sorry, that's the other thing I'm trying to say. That is horrible. NASA's incessant need of commercializing everything to get stuff done in the short term is you're just going to end up commercializing everything, and there won't be any NASA left.
That's my worry.
Yeah, right. Like that's awful.
I mean, NASA, that's their thing. They are the exploration people. I'd rather, I mean, sure, give things to commercial. I absolutely agree with that. But, when it comes to leading edge science, being the first ones to return to the moon, studying asteroids, studying other parts of our solar system, studying beyond our solar system, that's what NASA's built on. That's what NASA has been. That's what they've been the leader in for all these years. It's great. I mean, I hate to bring up Neil deGrasse Tyson's quote from during the shuttle era, but low Earth orbit was to go where hundreds have gone before. People go all the time now to low Earth orbit. Cool, give that to commercial. You got people eventually, once we start doing lunar landings, sure, give that to commercial. Space stations, give it to commercial. Exploration of our solar system and our universe, that is so NASA. Learning about the moon and our place in space, that is so NASA. And it just feels wrong to say, oh, no, that's a little too expensive now, so if a commercial company wants to buy it, sure. No, that's NASA. That's what we need NASA for. Everyone's like, oh, we don't need NASA anymore. You've got SpaceX, you've got, Vulcan and New Glenns and all this stuff. It's like, no, you still need a NASA. We need that explorational spirit, and that's what that's all about, in my opinion. And Jake agrees.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to get on a little soapbox there.
No, we're gonna be pushing the edge, or we're not gonna go and push the edge of scientific understanding because it's too expensive. It's ridiculous.
Which I go again. The thing that you have behind you, right? And the thing that I have behind me, right? Like, are super heavy rockets now a thing that NASA should be developing? Probably not even like 10 years ago when SLS started. That's my take, but it's a whole other debate as well that we've probably gone through 1,000 times. But
I mean, Alex, what are you trying to say? That super heavy is less expensive than SLS?
No, I'm trying to say that the whole deal with SLS is that it was made precisely to keep shuttle contractors around. One of the things that was done in the late noughties, I guess, the 2000s, before SLS actually came into light, was this whole process of studies to try to get another super heavy launch vehicle. Part of those companies that were put in that list of super heavy launch vehicle development was SpaceX, and they had the Merlin 2 and all of these other proposals. Like even Lockheed Martin also had ideas with like Atlas and what you would call probably like a predecessor of the Vulcan rocket. Like, there were a lot of options on the table in the early 2010s, the early 2000s, late 2000s, excuse me, in that period of time where there was this whole transition to commercial, right, in low Earth orbit. So the capsule, sure, you can probably leave that Orion and everything to a traditional cost plus contracting method, but actually it is not cost plus. We'll probably have to do a whole nother discussion about that in another topic or whatever. But the whole deal is that SLS is just a thing that gets Orion from the ground to translunar injection. There are many ways you can build a rocket now commercially, a lot cheaper, a lot more available, and especially with a lot more cadence to do that. It is true that back in the day, there were a lot of promises and nothing to show, but there were people like Lockheed Martin, right? Like big boy guys doing that kind of stuff. So you can already take that away. It's done. That's my.
So you saying they could have chose something different than SLS? Is that what?
Yeah. They had long studies, and probably Chris is watching this, and he could pull out all of his different articles about that. I remember reading about that on NSF.
Yeah, there's
And all of the different studies.
there is so much to this. It is very nuanced, and I mean, we could go on in a loop for about 20,000 hours on this. So, I think Kevin put it best right there. Time's up on it. And yeah, the fact that Jake fell asleep now during this conversation, I think also answers. Let's move along. I do want to thank some people, and then I'll tell you what Jake was thinking. I saw the poll. I'll compare the results to what he's actually thinking. Devin Waldron, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Elizabeth Hopner with the $50 super chat. No message, but still very, very kind for the support there. Thank you very, very much. It allows us to bring all of this content to you, all of our live cameras to you, and all of the amazing work that the team does. And including the flyovers, which frankly said the Cape flyover was great, Sawyer. Here's some money for bail. Thank you. This rate, I'm going to need it because I have a feeling Kevin's going to throw me in jail a couple more times. Musical Wolves, it would be cool to see a Bye, Jake. It would be cool to see a Boston Dynamics robot on the moon. Should NASA choose that as an option and have it include extra sensors? I mean, yeah, just imagine a robot hopping around the moon. That would be kind of cool. Michael Bertoli, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. And Ben Creasy again with a hot take, which is good because we are in the flame trench where things can get hot. Starship and Super Heavy are not one integrated system. They're 2 vehicles with an integrated launch operation. We already know they need 5 variations of Starship as is. How long until someone develops their own ship? There is a lot to that, and I think we could save that for the Starship conversation. What do you guys think? Let things cool down a little bit first, and then we'll get spicy.
Yeah.
So Ben,
Some
I
people are
promise we'll
not
get back to
believing
that.
me. Some people in chat are not believing me when I say that there was a contract handed out by NASA to 13 different launch companies or contractors in general, and one of them was SpaceX. Like, I'm literally looking at it, November 9th, 2010. That was part of it's NASA's initial response to the 2010 NASA Authorization Act, which requires the agency to begin work this year on a vehicle capable of lifting at least 70 metric tons to low Earth orbit by 2016. That turned into SLS, but before that, NASA was looking to a commercial solution to that, and many other things that they looked at well before that. But it was there.
Is this an RFP or an RFA, Alex? Like, what are we talking about here?
It is study contracts. So it was a very early on thing, but it was the groundwork for that. As far as I know, this was stopped in their tracks and SLS didn't happen. But that's essentially, United Launch Alliance, Space Exploration Technologies, Science Applications, International Orbital Sciences, Pratt & Whitney, Rocketdyne, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, even like Andrews Space, which is now Spaceflight, and Spaceflight Inc. then went into Firefly, whatever. Like there's a list of companies in this contract or studies of a super heavy lift commercial vehicle. Essentially.
Yeah. So, I know you all wanted to know the truth, which, by the way, I do have to appreciate Rick Skinner saying, "Amen, Jake's human." So, let's see, 28% said Jake thinks commercialization is key, 19% federal funding required but tricky, 53% feed me, human. Which, here's the thing. He has a food bowl. There is no restrictions on his food. He can eat whatever he wants. So the fact that he's there with me means he really wants to. But he did whisper in my ear before we start and said eviscerate the proletariat. So I'm a little concerned at the moment. Anyway, let's continue along. We do have to give a quick shout out here to ESA, the European Space Agency. I know we have some awesome European viewers here, so hi. We will fix our clocks for you, I promise, coming soon, this weekend. But in terms of Europe, they're talking about getting some new engines and getting into reusability, right, EJ?
Yeah, the European Space Agency has selected 4 companies to work on 2 different contracts. One of them is this name, dude. It's backronyms to a T. It's
Which
kind
one,
of
Thrust?
both of them are. So they have 2 different contracts. One is called Thrust, and the other one is called Best. But there's an exclamation point at the end of either one, so it's Thrust and Best. So the first one is the technology for high thrust reusable space transportation, and what they're looking to do is make high thrust stage combustion cycle engines, which is pretty cool. The other one is Best. I actually have to look up the acronym. I'm not even kidding. I have to look up the acronym for this.
That one is Boosters for European Space Transport.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I found it there.
Transport.
Yeah, you got to say Best and Thrust, right? And they gave these contracts, like each one of these contracts, Thrust and Best, has 2 companies. So Thrust went to Rocket Factory Augsburg, RFA actually, to scale up their already existing stage combustion cycle engines, which is actually pretty cool. I don't know about you guys. I like RFA. I think RFA is pretty cool. Unfortunately, they did have a rocket that just obliterated itself on the test stand / launch pad a little while back. But the reason why I like them is because they actually went and took accountability for what was going on. They said, hey, we messed up. This is a big deal. We really got to fix this, and we will be back. And, we're going to figure out what went wrong, and we're going to put this thing back on the pad, and we're going to send it. So I actually really appreciate that. I'm really happy that ESA threw them a bone there. That's pretty cool. Because RFA taking accountability, that's how you got to do spaceflight. It kind of pertains to the conversation we were having a little bit earlier. But you have to take accountability for what you're doing, and you have to understand why you messed up and go from there, which is actually super cool. And then the other company that was selected for Thrust is the Exploration Company. That company I don't know too much about. They have roots in France and Germany, and they're currently working on a reusable cargo spacecraft engine called Typhoon. It's rated. They plan to have it rated for about 200 tons of thrust, and yeah, per the thrust thing, it's got to be stage combustion cycle, right? I'm not too 100% sure. Like, I haven't heard that so much about them as opposed to RFA. I mean, but these are full flow stage combustion cycle engines. That's what that thrust contract is for building. I'm not going to say for building competitors to Raptor in B4, but that seems like it's there to maintain that kind of competitiveness, right? And then the other one is the Best contract. Sorry. Like, what? They're backronymed and they have exclamation points at the end, man. What do you want me to do with this? This behavior should be shunned. This is Best Thrust, right? The Best contract was given to a German company, ISAR Aerospace. They're getting ready to launch the first launch of their Spectrum rocket. That rocket is not planned to be reusable, but remember, this contract is for boosters, right? For next generation boosters. And let's see, who had the second part of the best contract? Let's take a look. I actually have to go look this up here. Give me one second. I think it was
Ariane Group, which is.
Oh yeah, they had
Ariane
Ariane Group with their their reusable prototype. The name of that rocket, they're going to launch it off of the Soyuz pad right down at French Guiana.
Yeah, NASASpace.
Yeah, NASASpace, which is a kind of Arianespace is the parent company, and they're going to launch their prototype reusable booster from Soyuz's pad at French Guiana, or ex-Soyuz pad at French Guiana. Yeah, they don't use that pad anymore for reasons. Anyway, for reasons. So yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I like harping on the ESA a lot, but honestly, this is a huge step in the right direction. You put in the seed money to let your commercial space industry grow is a good thing. I mean, that's what you want, because expendability is the past, right? And a lot of these companies are working on reuse in the future. So and also, I know we were literally just talking about, like not doing commercial all the time. In what I didn't get to say in that argument is that I think there needs to be a balance. You can't just commercialize everything, like Sawyer was saying, right? It has to be kind of applicative to whatever you're doing, right? But the fact that the ESA is embracing this contract, that type of contract award, and kind of moving into putting seed money in to stimulate their commercial spaceflight industry is actually super cool. Alex, what do you think about this?
If only we had a European to get their opinion.
I was going to say, like, I don't know why you gave it to me. You probably should have given it to Alex, but...
Yeah. One of the things that sort of irks me about this contract to these 4 different companies is the fact that only one of them has actually shown some planning of what they want to do, right? So we've got the exploration company and RFA getting contracts for the thrust initiative. The thrust initiative. Right? I was actually looking because I had thrust on
Thrust!
From Merlin.
Best!
Thrust! So they both have the thrust thing. And it is true, though, that at least the exploration company, they do have at least some footage, I believe, of this newer engine being sort of in development. But other than that, we don't have anything from RFA, for example, of a larger engine, because they have a stage combustion cycle engine that is hopefully going to be flown on the RFA1 rocket, but we have not seen anything on any, larger rocket or any larger engine or anything like it. And then you have 2 other companies that have proposed reusability, with boosters with a BEST contract, right? And that's Ariane Group and ESAR. And so of all of these 4 companies, the only one that has really shown any plans to do the things that are being contracted for is unfortunately Ariane Group. And there's one thing that I should mention, though, because I was actually being told this back in the day, it's Ariane Group, it's not Arianespace. Arianespace is a subsidiary of Ariane Group. And then within Ariane Group, you have MayaSpace. MayaSpace is sort of like their attempt at a startup kind of thing that goes fast or whatever, and has this, program to develop a reusable booster as well. But they have shown plans at least for that, right? And they have shown some at least concepts for that as well. They had a concept of a plan, I guess. But yeah, the whole thing with the BEST program and the thrust contract and all of that is that only one of those 4 actually has something to publicly talk about. Everybody else is like just completely sipped, right? And it's like, guys, you're getting money out of taxpayers. Hello? Say something, right? It's like, I don't know. That's at least my take as a European, right? Of you're getting part of my money, very small part, some of it. I would like to know what you're doing with it, right? But yeah.
I mean, I do just want to point out first, it sounds like with your Spanish accent that you're just talking about an old social media platform Like, oh yeah, they have MySpace, not MySpace.
MayaSpace. It's MAIA. Maya.
MySpace. Got it. Yes.
MySpace.
.com. Kevin,
Not with a
please
Y,
get
but
the
with an
URL.
I. The one with a dot. There you go.
But it is kind of nice to see this. Like you mentioned, it's not necessarily competition to Raptors and, BE4s, but it feels like it's Europe trying to say, hey, we're in this competitive game too. Because right now, when you think of European rockets, the main one that you think of is, let's see, Ariane 6, which, yeah, we'll talk about that in the next topic of maybe if that flies again this year. That's coming up soon, TM. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I feel like this is their attempt to try and say, hey, we're a part of this and get more European involvement, which I agree. It shouldn't be all the US companies. I want to see the European involvement. You've got, Europe at one point was able to launch a rocket from Europe and then said, nah, forget it, and it's the UK. But, yeah, I guess the real question then is, of the options, which has the best thrust?
But yeah, one last thing that I should say though, I do not, I'm not against these contracts going out. It's just that I'm sad that they have gone out. I will really want to know more about these programs and everything. Like, I'm just saying, I really want to know more. Please show off more, right? Sometimes people complain about SpaceX being all, show off and explaining, oh, we want to go to Mars in 2 years and whatever. But it's like, at least we know some stuff, like what things they're planning, right? You cannot get hyped when you don't know anything. And I really want to know what they're cooking and what they want to do and everything. Show me your plans. Really get me excited. Like from PLD Space last month, they had this whole show of announcing even like a crew capsule and everything. They may not get to that point, but it got me excited. Like, heck, there's people that are actually, showing off and trying these big, bold plans. We really need big, bold plans out of private companies in Europe, right? Just like you'll have in the US. And so I really want to see more of that in our industry. Because unfortunately, what you get from Ariane Group, well, as you said, everybody thinks about Ariane 6. And so, yeah, that's not exciting or hypeable or anything. I really want a big rocket that says, hey, I'm launching a lot of tons to the moon. Like when PLD Space said, hey, we're going to strap 4 more boosters to our rocket and put like 20 tons in translunar injection. I said, yeah, do it. Come on. Now. Go ahead. Right? It's like big, bold plans. We need that. We need fresh ideas. Maybe not everybody will go through, but the more the merrier.
You need big, bold.
Thrust.
What are the program names
Come
again?
on,
I'm
Lucy.
sorry, I can't remember.
Best thrust. Oh my lord.
Double jail. Yes, I'm free.
Wait.
I'm
We are
free.
both in jail. Why? He did not even do anything. He's been
I paid
quiet.
the bail. I paid the bail, baby. Thank you for the community support. I paid the bail. How'd that feel, guys, huh? How'd it feel?
The heck was I put in jail for? I didn't do anything.
For being too spicy with the exclamation points.
I'm just saying what I'm reading, man. How else you supposed to say that?
I don't know. I guess the boring way, but that was cool. Double jail. Anyway, I do want to thank some people here because while we're talking about Ariane 6, I want to keep that train going here. Roseanne DeVasto saying, when I was with SETI, the concept... Oh, yes, the hype train here. When I was with SETI, the concept of change orders didn't exist. That could be a whole nother hour of discussion, so I'll keep going here. Stephanie Baxter. Shout out to the Flame Trench. I'm glad y'all hashed this out so I can understand it all better. Also, be nicer to EJ. You pick on him too much. No, he deserved to be in jail. It's fine. Michael Bertoli, great and spicy
Hey.
show.
Hey Sawyer, is baseball season still going, or how'd that end?
At least my team made it to the playoffs.
All right. I'd rather not make the playoffs than blow the World Series, to be honest with you.
I'm still a Yankees fan, and I don't care.
Can you jail both of them so they get like in that cell they fight each other or something? I don't know.
Yeah, jails. Meet me in the yard, and I'll show you who's the pod boss.
You don't want that.
And then RC Horseman with the $100 tip at tips.nasaspaceflight.com, saying one of the best flame trenches so far. Thank you. No, thank you. That is insanely generous. Thank you for paying my bail. I guess
Oh,
them
Jack
too.
is in chat.
Oh no, Jack.
And Chris, World Series?
Wait, Jack just said go Dodgers?
My guy, all right.
No. Throw him in jail. Throw him in jail next time he's on. Yak, get ready. Kevin's bringing the bars. RC
Somebody,
Horseman,
we just
thank
gotta-
you. Even if you called them losers anyway because they came in second, I'm still happy they made it to another World Series again. It was an ugly loss, but it was a nice season. So, but you'll needle me, Jack. Ouch. There's violence threats. He needs to go to jail. There's threats of violence from Yak.
You know,
So.
I got another word for the team
Jackie?
that comes in second place in baseball.
From Yakala.
From Yakla. Nice.
Anyway, with those shots fired, let's start firing some shots at the rest of this year in spaceflight. Hopefully, we will have another Ariane 6 flight, but there's a lot of stuff to look forward to still in 2024, right, Alex?
Yeah. So, if you watch today's This Week in Spaceflight episode, you'll see, because it was the end of the month, we always publish this sort of like, we have a little small 10-20 second section where we go over sort of like end of month stats. And always, of course, SpaceX has launched like 11 times this month, plus Starship behind me as well. And so, you have all of these stats and everything. Maybe, he's okay. Well, you have the ones from Tyler that Kevin is gonna be putting up here shortly. But essentially, we have hit 200 launches already by the end of October. For those that are not aware, I'm pulling up now my own spreadsheets here. Last year we had 221 launches. Okay, I don't know why there's 198. I have 200. But we have hit 200 launches already. 194 of those were a success, 4 failures, and 2 partial failures. Last year, it was 221 total. 211 were successes, and then 9 failures and 1 partial failure last year. So we are 21 launches away from essentially matching last year, and there's still 2 more months. At the rate that we are going, we can hit 240 launches worldwide, and if things go pretty well, maybe 250. Just saying, the US so far has had 122 launches. By the end of the year, we could have more launches from the US and especially from SpaceX than there were in even the most active launches, the most active years back in the days, at least in the old days where we didn't have as many launches as we have lately. But yeah, this whole thing is just increasing, and we still have 2 more months to go. Some of the notes that we have here, of course, Falcon 9 has already reached more than 100 launches this year. We have seen the 200th Starlink launch overall as well. And you can see there on Twist this year, this week, we have talked about that as well. we have coming up, fourth flight of the H3 rocket from Japan. We have the second launch of the Ariane 6. We have return to flight of Vega C. We have Starship 6 flight, Nugling potentially debuting as well. We have Vulcan's third flight. We have a ton of things coming up in the next 2 months. Like here as well, Firefly Alpha is expected to fly one more time as well. We have potentially maybe some more satellites being launched as well from like GTO satellites and whatnot. But yeah, there's a ton of things going on. I don't know, you guys, EJ and Sawyer, like maybe EJ, you go first or whatever. Like,
Ew.
what is the thing in the remaining time that you think is like really cool? Apart from Starship, let's be honest, that's probably very high up there.
That's what I was gonna say.
Apart from Starship, right?
No, other than that.
What is the other thing that's like, oh man, that's gonna be really exciting to see? Like,
So we kind of talked about this at the top of the flame trench here,
Yeah.
like, and we don't really know if it's gonna happen or not because of industrial wastewater processes. But if it does launch this year, I don't know about you guys. I'm looking forward to New Glenn. Like, I love the booster catch, but the only thing better than having 2 rockets that can come back in, land, and/or be caught is having 3 that can do that. That's pretty cool. I want more rockets. I am very greedy as a spaceflight nerd. I want more rockets, not less. Less rockets is bad for the industry. More rockets will get us further into space. I want to see New Glenn fly. I think it's going to do great, and I'm really looking forward to that. Sawyer, what do you think?
I mean, obviously, as a Cape person myself, New Glenn launching from Florida is going to be bonkies, to say the least. I'm very excited for that launch. In terms of other launches that I'm still excited for to see this year, I mean, it would be nice to see more European launchers going. There's at least another one from Rocket Lab still coming, maybe another Astra flight. In terms of big upcoming launches, though, for the rest of the year, I mean, I'm just excited, honestly. This is going to sound crazy, but for Falcon 9, I want to see how they pick up the pace at the end of the year, because there were so many concerns over hurricanes, and then you had 3 different investigations that had to go on this year, and their goal was 148 launches, which was 144 from last year, plus the 4 that they just missed. I want to see how close they can get in these last 2 months. I mean, if they can knock out 12 launches a month for the last 2, you're talking 25 more launches. You're talking close to 130 launches in a year. I want to see how high that number gets.
Yeah, right now they have 105 Falcon launches plus the 3 Starship. If they do 25, which in theory, without breaking any records or anything, they could have 13 launches and then 12 launches, or vice versa, right? And they will not need to break any records of turnaround times or anything like that, because they have already done that in previous times, in previous months. So in theory, if they do that, that will be 25 extra launches plus the 105 that they have already done with Falcon. They will get 130. And if they get to do a 4th launch of Starship, hopefully, then we will have like a total of 134 from SpaceX, which is like,
I want to see if they can hit the 130. That's what I'm excited for, is the pace.
EJ?
So, yeah.
I think saying Falcon 9, that's actually a really good point. I mean, I still like New Glenn, but saying Falcon 9 is actually not bad. Sorry, I was yelling at Jack in the chat because
he continues
keeps
to
putting
call it
Y.
Glenny.
And then,
Dude,
as you can see there,
just take the L, man.
showing,
just take the L.
Oh, Jack, no, don't. He's texting me, Glenny. No.
See, look.
Like,
he got so bent out of shape over Hoppy. He's putting Y's.
I have now like 4 different devices showing me the notification from Jack saying Glenny. It's like,
this is
really?
just cope. This is just coping. Take the L, man.
We
Jeepers.
can't ignore that we were just showing there. Rocket Lab going for basically an average of one a month if they can get at least one more off. That'd be 12 launches in a year, which for a small set company that's launching out of New Zealand is pretty darn good. Can't ignore them.
Once again, he texted me Lenny. This time in caps. In all caps.
Okay, just remind
I
me
will
to
turn
never
the show
give Jack
around.
my
Let's
phone
keep
number.
going.
Back to Winnipeg. Anyway, yeah, and like I'm looking also at my spreadsheet, like looking at the launch sites and everything. The 3 most active launch sites in the world. Guess which one of them? Cape Canaveral, Vandenberg, and Kennedy. But yeah, that is the 3 most active launch sites or areas, I guess, of the world.
There's a surprise.
It's
a big
interesting. I want
surprise,
to see,
Alex,
by the way,
you know?
while we continue arguing just real quick on this, I want to see chat. What are you looking forward to most? Tag at NASASpaceflight and I'll kind of tally them up while EJ continues here. I want to see what you're looking forward to most. Sorry, go ahead, EJ.
I was gonna say. Sorry, I'm reading chat. Yeah, I mean that's kind of big surprise, right? But I will say it's pretty awesome to see the fact that we're even here, tallying up, like Vandenberg, Wallops and Kennedy have the most launch. Like that's crazy to me. I mean, Sawyer, do you remember when we'd be lucky to get like 3 launches out of the Cape, maybe 4 a year out of the Cape? Maybe if you were lucky, one of them was a shuttle, right?
Yeah.
Just compare that to this right now.
Remember
it's absurd.
2012, 2013, 2014?
Oh,
that was
It was
painful.
awful. It was so bad.
56 launches from Cape Canaveral have happened this year. That's Cape Canaveral from Kennedy, obviously only from 39A, sadly, 18. So that's a lot of launches. I probably
Was
could
that
do it right now. But
73 from Florida?
yeah, that would be
Jeez.
74, 18 plus 56.
Oh, 56, yeah.
Yeah, 56, which that includes, 4 launches from Slick 41, 51 launches from Slick 40, and
Yeah, baby.
1 from 37B because we had the Delta for Heavy last launch from there. So yeah, that's a lot of launches from the Cape, and also 39A 18 from there. From Vandenberg, we have had 37 because there's been 36 out of Slick 4 East, and then 1 of the Alpha rocket out of Slick 2 West. So that is sort of the tally here. Interestingly, Electron from LC-1B in New Zealand comes 4th. So even the 4th most active launch pad is still sort of under an American company, I guess, because Rocket Lab is an American company, even though they launch from New Zealand and also they are partially owned from New Zealand. But you get what I mean. It's still
Their headquarters are in Long Beach, basically.
Exactly.
California.
And then you have LC3 from China, Site 95A from Jiquan, also 6 launches, Site 31-6 from Baikonur 6, but yeah, the 3 most active launch pads are Slick 40, 4 East, and 39A, of course, from SpaceX.
Yeah, I'm seeing in chat here, obviously, one of the most common ones is New Glen. A couple people for Vulcan's first operational flight, which hopefully we'll see that by the end of the year, pending what goes on with the observation and the U.S. military's opinion on that. Progress on commercial space station. Starship. Yeah, definitely more Starship.
I was thinking about one thing because I was looking through my list, and I just noticed India. They're developing the Gaganyaan spacecraft, and I believe they have an abort test on December, so like next month.
Ooh, abort tests are amazing.
Yeah, another in-flight abort test of their escape system for their capsule, and they're also preparing. It will not be this year, but next year they have like multiple orbital uncrewed missions. That's gonna be awesome to see as well. Another country, getting a crew capsule up there.
DAS's reaction, by the way, to the SpaceX in-flight abort, still one of my favorite videos of all time. And I was there at the launch, which was mind-blowing to begin with, but his reaction still sums it up the best. Let's see, what else do we have? Hopefully soon Wallops Electron launch again. Venus mission on Electron. So a lot of excitement still. I don't know how many of these are this year, but there's at least a lot of excitement ahead. So
Yeah.
Still plenty of good stuff left.
exactly, and we aren't even at the 2025 look ahead yet. That's coming up later in the year.
Yeah, that's when we do all the bets and polls and everything. That's gonna be exciting.
That's when we get Alex to shave his head. Yes.
No.
I'm sorry. My earpiece cut out. I think you were saying yes.
I think you said I'm totally fine with this. We should do it.
Oh my gosh, that EJ death stare made it perfect. Dikembe Mutombo over there. All right. I don't know how many people actually get that reference. Got EJ laughing. I'll take it. I'll take it. And I guess that also will mean Jack in a kilt, which, oh no, he's not on air to argue it, so it must happen then. Okay, cool.
Come on,
I
let's
think
see.
so.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Not again. Who's in jail this time?
It's got to be you. If it's me again, I don't know.
Oh my goodness, this is the first time I've seen this image. This is the first time I've seen this.
And the crab.
So we have a crab.
Oh, no.
We have Jack wearing bacon and a kilt. The bird. What in the world?
He's wearing,
Kevin, I
he's
have
wearing
so many
meat.
questions
Oh, my
right now. Voice of
goodness.
God, do you mind just explaining what the heck this is, even though I absolutely love it?
Wait, you've never seen this picture before, Sawyer?
I haven't, no.
Sawyer wasn't
Jack
on
is-
that week of the Flame Trench.
That's
but
a shame.
Our awesome member Eric Fraser sent this to me a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no, Jack is channeling his inner Lady Gaga by wearing a meat suit. See that?
Lady Gaga.
Gaga.
Oh, I love this, I love this, I love this.
Hopefully he's not deceased. And that
Whoa, what? What?
is her latest. Anyways, I'm not gonna be doing a promo for Lady Gaga.
Why do you know that?
Hey, don't judge his music
Hey.
taste.
Roll the tape.
There is no intro to roll right now. Sorry, this isn't the top of the show. You don't get to say roll the intro. Anyway, I have a feeling we're going to get absolutely destroyed by Jack in the post show. So until then, let me
You
say
brought this on
no.
yourself. You brought it on
Yeah.
yourself.
let me thank some people here, because I know I'm going to get not thanked later by Jack. Miss Daisy, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Ethereal Swordsman, I'm playing KSP while watching this. Y'all made me forget to strut my boosters. Always strut. Always remember you're strutting, you're staging.
Rook move.
Devin Waldron, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Gunfox61, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Aramil, putting in £2 sterling towards the Shaved Head Fund.
Yeah, baby.
And then we will start moving on to Starship, including ground umbilical carrier plate, which you should have been here yesterday. That is a great Halloween costume, to be the ground umbilical carrier plate from Shuttle. I would be spooked. Absolutely spooked.
He's gonna dressed as concrete under the OLM.
Yes. That would have been hysterical to have used the concrete as the OLM. I would go as the Guck P. What were you going to go as, EJ?
NSF van.
EJ, you go
yeah.
have dressed as a Gen 63 XL nozzle.
I don't feel like losing my feet.
But you've been very observed.
Yeah, that's the thing. You'd really have to be observed. Wait, then I should be the Gen 63 XL.
I was going to say.
I'll leave it at that for those who know. All right. Ground umbilical cannon plates question is related to Starship, so I think now is as good a time as any to talk about the giant silver elephant in the room, and that is Starship. All it says here in our planning document, in case you didn't know, we have a whole planning document and everything of what we're going to talk about, some quick notes that we can reference. This just says, here Alex will talk. So Alex, talk.
Okay. Well, we have had Ship 33, as you can see there. It's already preparing to roll back, so it's been doing cryogenic proof testing at Massey's for like the past week or so. And yeah, there you can see the rollout of that ship. That is the first version 2 Block 2 vehicle ship, actually, not vehicle in general, because, well, it's also vehicle in general, but you know what I mean. It's not just like booster and everything. It's just the ship section, the next generation version of this ship. And so, it has a lot of new upgrades, but one of the things that a lot of people have noticed now that it's doing cryo testing is that it has a lot more tankage, right? Something that we have actually covered in previous videos, such as, Starbase update. I actually looked it up from August 19th of this year. We had a whole section within that Starbase update where I, on purpose, wrote down what was the stacking and how big the tank section is compared to the version 1 or block 1, whatever is your preferred name for that. And so, yeah, essentially, one of the questions that a lot of people are having now is that since the difference between version 1 and version 2 is that on version 2, what they have done is the whole ship is just one single ring taller. It's not that big of a change in the general terms. The difference, though, is that it is able to have more tankage by having the payload bay section is now shorter. Instead of being 5 rings, it is 3 rings. And so the tank section, if you remove 2 rings out of the payload bay section and then add an extra one, now the tank section is 3 extra rings larger. And so, when you see it fully loaded with cryogenics, it looks a lot different. It's like it's this big, huge tank and this tiny payload bay section. A lot of people are concerned about that tiny payload bay section. I should say, though, that tiny payload bay section still can fit all of the payloads that can fit on the Falcon 9 fairing. So nothing to worry about. I will worry more about the fact that they have not developed anything to deploy payloads out of there. But that's a whole different story. And maybe we can roll. I know Kevin is like rolling different videos of Ship 33, but maybe if he has ready one of the other videos precisely comparing that tankage section from version 1 to version 2 of what we have seen, this testing going on, I'll give him time. But, we shouldn't worry about any of that because version 3 will solve all of this. So it'll add another big chunk of tankage and another big chunk of payload bay, and we'll get to that probably later in this whole discussion that we're having. But then you can see like a comparison between Ship 31 and Ship 33. You can see that the whole tankage just goes a lot further up, closer to the nose cone. They have also optimized a bunch of things. Like, it's not just that you have a lot more volume for propellant. Yeah, that's the camera following one of the OLM sections. We'll talk about that later as well. But another thing, maybe the other diagram that I put on the back channels, Kevin, you can prepare that. the other thing as well is that now, for example, the top dome, where you have the pest dispenser above with a payload bay and everything, that one is the flatter dome. So the distance between the other one, the one that I drew, uh, the distance between that top dome and the payload bay door is a lot closer. So you can take more advantage of the nose cone volume, for example, instead of that one. So you can see there that's hand drawn, not fully to scale. It's sort of like eyeballed, but then you can see a comparison of like version 2, version 1, and where you had the door before, it was like a whole ring between the door and the top dome. Now, because it is a dome that is flatter, you can have that closer, so you're taking more advantage of the payload space, the payload bay door, and things like that. And so that's a very huge advantage. As you can see there, the LOX tank has grown like a ring, a little bit more than a ring, right? And then the top dome is higher because it's flatter. So in order to regain some of that volume, you have to put it a little bit higher. But also the payload bay door can be closer to the dome, which is, it takes more advantage of the available volume. Block 3, again, it'll have larger tanks, larger payload bay. We'll talk about that later. But anyways, any other things? Well, there, you can see. So we actually knew about how big Block 2 or version 2, Starship 2, you can call it that way too, because you can see their ship height, and it's 52.1 compared to 50.3. And if I'm not mistaken, that should be 1.8 meters in difference, right? And so 1.8 meters is 6 feet tall. That is essentially one ring higher. So that's why we knew it was going to be one ring taller. And then you can see also on the propellant load somewhere here, it is 300 tons more of propellant from the Flight 3 ship to the Starship 2, right? So 300 tons of propellant is about 3 rings. So we knew that the tankage will have to be enlarged by 3 rings, but the ship overall was going to be only 1 ring taller. So that was already a big sign that the payload bay section was going to be shortened. For Block 3, you can see there 800 tons of propellant that they're adding, but the whole ship is going to be like 17 meters longer, more than 17 meters. So that's a lot more than just tankage that they're adding. The payload bay section will also be larger on Block 3. So there's no need to fear, they're going to get that volume back. Anyways, that's my long end of Alex talks here, I guess.
Part 1.
So there, Alex, you're saying that they extended the tanks on Ship 33, right? They extended the tanks, and they shortened the payload bay, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to see a bigger payload bay on future starships, right?
Exactly.
That was okay. I got you, man. All right. I was
trying
to follow
you can
along.
you can do the math, and I believe what it ends up equaling and like the conversion, doing a little bit of napkin math, as if you will, is that it's about 5 rings of tankage, more or less 5-6 rings, and then another 5 or 6 of the payload bay section. The payload bay section will be huge whenever that thing, like right now, one of the concerns a lot of people had is that, sure, you have that you can see there that door, that attempt of drawing a door there, and you only have like maybe a ring and a half, but then you have the nose cone. Sure, you have the at the top you have the header tanks. You still have big chunk. When you take that into account, you can fit anything that fits on the Falcon 9 payload fairing. You can fit anything there, right? That can fit on there. So Starship could easily, whenever they actually develop a door, which is a whole different concern, whenever they actually are able to deploy big payloads, it's going to fit in there. Whatever they can launch on Falcon 9 can fit in there, so no problem. In the future, if you want to launch bigger things, of course, you will need Block 3. But yeah, that's sort of the whole point. No need to worry.
when you say like it can launch anything that a Falcon 9 can, are you thinking that Starship's going to launch like V2 minis or something,
Well,
or
no.
just any payload? Because okay, so if we're talking about any type of payload, right? Don't you think they need to? And I'm just snowballing here. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like, don't you think they need to change they can't have that little the mail slot payload bay door, right? You're going to need something different if you're going to launch,
Yeah.
anything that a Falcon 9 can, right? Like,
I meant like the what it's called, the payload envelope kind of thing, right? The
Yeah, I got you.
volume available for a payload, whatever you can fit on Falcon 9 because of the height. I believe you only have like 9 meters or something like that in height. It's 13 meters tall, but you have like a 3-4 meter tapered section. So I mean, unless you have a very pointy payload that you can fit all the way to the top, you're only going to fit things in that cylindrical section of the fairing. Whatever you can fit there, you can fit it inside of that, volume. Even though the payload base section is now a little bit higher because of that top dome, that forward dome being higher, you can still fit all of that there with the volume available. Now, of course, as you mentioned, they will need a kind of door, whatever, like a hinge, a payload bay door, sort of like the shuttle or something. They're going to need that kind of thing in order to be able to, release the thing. That's a whole different problem that they have. But for example, to launch Starlink version 3, that type of satellite, the big boy satellite, as they call it, right? The ones that are not the B2 minis, but the full-size Starlinks, those are going to be able to be launched as well, and maybe even with more space that they had before, because they have optimized a lot of the room that they had before, even though it's now higher up on the vehicle. But they have optimized a bunch of things, like even the hinges for the flaps and everything. A lot of that hardware has been simplified as well. And so you have more room to be able to put the pest dispenser higher up and take up some of that nose cone volume. So that'll be probably what they use to start launching this Starlink V3 satellite, which they have already, by the way, they are already putting the paperwork together for that. We have seen in recent weeks that kind of paperwork already to launch the bigger satellites on Starship. Whether that'll happen soon, I have no idea. But if they are preparing already for that kind of paperwork is in work, right? Then it's probably going to be soon, maybe in the next year or so. So we'll see.
cool.
Definitely going to be interesting to see as we get into these larger versions in terms of, like you said, the payload volume, what they're actually launching, all of that. And by the way, hashtag AlexArt, that needs to be a metal print.
Oh God. Anyways,
yeah,
I just wanted to like make people be relaxed and calm. That don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get there. It's just iterations. This is the whole deal of this program, and probably EJ can even rant about that because I know he's being all about that in previous Flame Trenches. But yeah, we'll get there when we get there.
You really want fight mode here. Hugh Mann saying Block 3 is worse than Ares 1. Changed my mind.
I agree with that. It looks ridiculous.
We have not seen it. Give it a chance.
Dude, it looks like Long Cat. It looks like Long Cat, man. I mean, yeah, I guess we'll wait until they, roll it out of the high bay, but that render, not making any friends there.
It's a heck of a comparison to Ares 1. I mean, I guess, yeah, it's tall rockets that are kind of tall for the sake of being tall. I don't know how else to describe it, but yeah, kind of.
I'm sorry. I think it looks amazing. I think Ares 1 looks amazing. It's a very nice looking rocket.
I mean, I'm still not as big a fan of Ares 1. In fact, I still don't like Ares 1, but...
Yeah, but we're not talking about performance or anything. We're talking about looks. Do you think it's a cool looking rocket? I think it looks awesome.
I mean, this one's going to be very, very tall and wide. The other one was tall and skinny. I feel like at least that has that going for it, and that, you've got a giant-sized rocket, so when it's as tall, it's like, okay, it doesn't look as bad. It's not as skinny and stubby. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, a lot of people were thinking that, Block 2 ship was gonna be the one that was gonna be super long. When you look at it, apart from the forward flaps, which are now, more leeward, it's like it's not that different. It's just one ring taller. Like it's not super huge of a difference from the outside. You can see though certain differences that we're already working. I always jinx this when I say it, but we're already working on a video. I mean, we've been thinking about making a video about this for a long time. Everybody that's been following us for a while, we've been known to put out these videos of like comparing when they do these big updates, right? Of what has changed and whatnot. In fact, one of our first long form, videos precisely, talking about more technical stuff was precisely when I joined and we did this whole video about the differences between booster 4 and ship 20 with booster 7 and ship 24 and like the chines and talking about I remember that whole thing. That was my first big video that I worked at NSF. It was this huge pain. It's still a pain to write some of the videos, but that's how it goes, right? It's a long process, but some inside baseball here, I guess.
Yeah, you're only writing what 3, 4 to 6 videos a week now. That's all.
No, I mean I'm not writing that many, but there's a bunch of things in my list that I have to go through. I still have to finish the Raptor video, anyways.
Kevin, I can already hear the steam coming out of his ears as you mention
Yeah.
it.
So you remember the Starlink video?
That was then there was changes. Then there was,
Yeah.
that's you and me too, Bo. You and me are both on that, so you take half the blame. Anyway,
I'm still waiting.
one more really quick before we move on. In terms of, being the height of all the vehicles and everything, really quick, James Atkinson was wondering in terms of once we get to the Raptor 3s also, are they as tall as Raptor 2s, or might you save some volume from those being shorter?
They are as tall. They're just not as, Christmas tree-ish, I guess.
Definitely less
Yeah.
plumbing.
Exactly. They have less plumbing. Or rather, it might have about the same or maybe saved some of it, but a bunch of it is just, all stuck together and more compact, I guess. Yeah. It's the same height, essentially.
Yeah, so they wouldn't say need to make any different changes for these vehicles to be able to have it fit, say, at Pad B, which I believe there's some news related to Pad B's orbital launch mount.
Yeah, so we had we have two things. Let's see what Kevin shows first. Okay, the flyover. So this week, spoiler alert. I mean, it's not really spoiler because Chris already leaked it, I guess. But Jack did a flyover this week. It's gonna be featured on this upcoming Starbase update on this Monday, and there you can see sort of the progress that has been done on some of the Pad B hardware, the chopsticks, the quick disconnect arm, the carriage system, and so one of the things as well is the OLM for Pad B. They're already building the second layer, so they built the sort of the base of that OLM. They are now doing the second layer, sort of it's like a sandwich kind of thing that they're building with multiple layers. The second layer, that's the one that is going to be holding hold down arms, I guess. And they have already put together two of the corners. A bunch of people were thinking those are quick disconnects. They are not, just they are part of the structure of the OLM. So that's just corners of the whole thing. And you have another corner on the top left. That's probably gonna go on that top left corner, I guess. There you go. That's the other one. And you have the middle pieces. There's one down below, sort of like the like button. There you go. That's the other piece. And so it's like a big puzzle, and in the middle is going to be the hole for the booster to be placed there. 20 hold down arms would come out, grab onto the booster, and that's it. We don't think it's going to have the Raptor quick disconnects that we've seen on OLM 1, on the first OLM, but it will have potentially, thanks for that, because Kevin is right now preparing the other one, which is the main quick disconnect for the booster. So there you go. That's the structure for the quick disconnect, the port that'll be attaching to the booster. So far, it looks pretty much like the one on the OLM for the first pad. So it doesn't look like a huge change. Maybe some other things will change, but so far, at least the hardware for the quick disconnect for the booster for Pad B is pretty much the same. And you can sort of see it on that picture that Chris published from the air. It looks like at least the ship quick disconnect arm might also be about the same design as the ones for the 39A pad, and the one that you can see sort of there. Hang on, there, there. That's the other quick disconnect. So I don't know. I expected probably a bigger change, making the OLM a square and not including the 20 quick disconnects for the Raptors. That's a simplification, but doesn't seem like the huge change that I was expecting. Although it is true, though, to be fair, it looks like at least the top deck will be water cooled. We've also spotted sections of that as well. Again, watch this Monday's Starbase update. I'm gonna be the guy that's gonna be writing that. Wish me luck.
Good luck. And by the way, can I just point out real quick? Ironic that for Falcon 9, they went from a square design to circular. And for the OLM, they're going circular to square. It's just, I would say it's coming full circle, but it's not a circle anymore.
But you know what, Sawyer? The booster goes in the circle hole.
Stole my joke,
God.
man.
The meme with
It
the
still
square.
has the circle.
Square goes in the circle, and the circle goes in the square.
EJ, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. We'll just take that joke and put it right in the square hole.
It goes in the square hole.
The disappointment on your face right now.
Dude, I had that teed up. I'm like, oh, come on, man. I had it teed up. I'm like, oh, I'm about to end this man's whole career, you know?
Were you going to comment on it, EJ, other than that?
Dudes, I actually, we're saying the square. Why, Alex? Why do you think they're doing a square, dude? I think they got some tricks up their sleeve, but I don't know. Why do you think they switched to a square? I'm kind of thinking about some stuff here. I want to hear what you say, though.
I have no idea. Some people are there are theories out there about a mobile OLM, right? I have no idea because one of the things is right now, as things stand, that's sort of no pun intended here. As things stand right now, we have no way of really saying definitely whether it's going to be mobile or fixed. Even though it looks like it's going to be very heavy, it can still be mobile, right? You just don't move it a lot of times. If you're just using it like, you're refurbishing it every 10 flights or something like that, you can still move that. Like maybe 10 flights, it's, I don't know, 5 months, 10 months, right? And you only needed to move it with that frequency. That probably is not a big deal, right? Still, it does look heavy, right? Sort of, takes away the whole thing of, is it going to be mobile? It's not going to be mobile. We've also seen the quick disconnect, the pieces arriving. We're very far away from figuring out whether that quick disconnect will be on that mount or it'll be, at the pad fixed there, and the orbital launch mount just goes there and gets anchored or whatever. So we're very far away from, being definitely one or the other. But perhaps that could play into the whole deal. That maybe having the square one is maybe easier in terms of the geometry to get the SPMTs and whatnot. I have no idea. But yeah, that's a long road. Thank you for that,
Yeah.
whoever is moving that camera. As you can see there, it's a long trip from the production site all the way to the launch site. But
Also, chat
we
way
know
back
how
to the
wide-
people who randomly waved.
Right. Do we know how wide that the new OLM is?
it should be more than 9 meters wide.
Right?
to
Yeah.
fit
Yeah.
the
Well, I would hope
booster.
so.
It seems
See-
obvious, but that's at least
Right.
the minimum.
Right. So,
Probably 12 meters,
see-
15 or something, if I would have to guess.
right. See, what I'm wondering, Alex, is like, and the reason why I was curious to hear what you had to say, like, so you look at where the pilings are from Pad B right now. The pilings and the retaining walls that they're putting in for digging out the flame trench.
He said the thing.
Should
He
we
said
link
the
that?
thing.
I can find the link for Kevin to show that on this stream.
Yeah,
We did not
if you
tweet
want
that
to.
out, but maybe if the powers that be want us to leak that, we could. Okay, it says
Yes.
give me. Okay, I can do that.
So
Keep talking. Give me time.
yeah. No, let's assume that it's like 12 to 13 meters wide. Well, where those retaining walls are in the trench is way wider than that. It's like 16 meters, about 60 feet, give or take. I mean, and don't get me wrong, that was just me kind of looking at it and comparing it to the automobiles next to it that I know how long they are because there's a Ford truck next to it. A Ford hat. It makes sense.
The car.
Anyway, yeah. What do you want? I don't know what you want. So I'm wondering because the OLMB doesn't really seem like it's going to fit in there. Like it's actually, I mean, it will fit in there, and it won't like. You were saying like, how is it going to move? Maybe it's better for moving SPMTs. I'm not really seeing how that thing is going to wind up in a trench that's way wider than it, right? Like, because if you look at like 39A, which has the same width flame trench, by the way, just thought I'd bring that up. 39A is a 60-foot wide trench. So does Pad B here at Boca Chica. I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe not. But you look at that. So they, there's the actual trench, and then there's room for the crawler transporter, and then they have pilot dowels that they put the mobile launcher platforms on. When not SpaceX doesn't do that anymore, like SLS does with their mobile launchers, right? And that's what the Saturn V and the shuttle used. Like, I'm kind of just trying to figure out how they're going to get this thing into that trench. Like, are they going to lift it with a crane? Is it going to be on SPMTs? It's just, I don't know. It's just weird because you see a really wide trench, but the OLM is not that wide. I don't know. Maybe they'll make it wider. Something to kind of ponder,
Definitely one of the things to make you think.
I mean, I have my theories, dude. That's for sure.
Yeah, apparently, I'm going to wait until we get this done with Alex, but Ethereal Swordsman did ask me to ask you about your wild LC-39A theory.
Oh, dear. Yep, here we go. I knew I was going to get asked. That's why I didn't. That's why I was just like, I don't know, maybe.
Should we let
I don't
Alex
think
do
it's
his thing first, and then we'll get to EJ's crazy rant? Because it sounds like it's going to be quite the conversation starter.
Alex, if you want to, go ahead.
Yeah, hang on. It's giving me problems to share things, but yeah, I believe there you can see one of them. That was not the one that I want to, but that was the one that yeah, it allowed me to share for whatever reason. This thing is not working. Thanks, Google. Anyways, yeah, you can see some of that work on the flame trench. Actually, if maybe we can go a little bit more down, you can see there's this sort of thing that they're digging next to it. That is the commodities trench. So that's where we think they're going to be putting there all of the pipes for the water, the liquid oxygen, liquid methane, and everything for the OLM. And so they're already starting to put concrete there which is very good news because that means they're getting essentially, to the point of just putting the concrete and laying down all the piping and everything and just, getting it done. Um, they're also, they keep digging the flame trench. You can see some of that progress as well, to the top of the picture. And there's a bunch of work going on there. You can see that it's nowhere near done, right? But whenever it's done, we should see there's some beautiful engineering being done there. Um, yeah, it's a whole lot of work. They've already drained at least some of the water that had been there in that flame trench area. They're doing also some of the pilings as well from the outside. You can see some of that work as well. But so far so good. It's gonna take many more months to get this ready. Just saying, because this is like one of the layers. There was another picture that I wanted to share, and this thing is not allowing me. Um, that was from the other view, and you can see the people within the flame trench. You can see that they have dug maybe like 12, 15 feet. For those that are using metric like me, 4.5 meters, maybe 5 meters, they need to dig 4 times that in order to get such depth. That is like, the OLM height, that is about 18 meters to the ground, to the plate. They need to dig a lot more. They're doing that in layers. Right now, that first layer is not a lot of digging. But yeah, a lot of work. So give them time. Be patient,
Yeah.
please.
The scale is
absolutely.
mind-boggling.
It's a huge flame trench.
It's
I said the name.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he said the thing.
I said the thing.
That's what I'm saying. You see how big that thing is? Now, someone asked in chat where was I calculating from the barrier, including thickness of the walls that would be inside them? I don't know. How do you know how thick the walls are going to be inside of them? Right? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we don't know how big those walls are going to be, but that is a awfully wide trench. I mean, but then again, Super Heavy is a awfully powerful vehicle, right? But I don't think it's a coincidence. This is the wild theory. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's the same width as 39A. I really don't. I think SpaceX might be planning something. Yeah. Okay. So for the just in case anyone's wondered, I think the OLMB is a mobile launcher platform, like the shuttle. Like Alex, you were talking about them digging a hole down in there. The MLPs are up off the deck. They're off the deck of the pad, right? And there's a gap for the transporter underneath it. The OLM might still be up off the ground. We don't know that for sure, right? It might still be raised up in the air. So this trench might not be as deep, but we know it's as wide, right? So, you're gonna have a shallow trench that's super wide. It just happens to be the same width as 39A. I think SpaceX is cooking something. I think SpaceX is cooking something up. I think they're cooking, and I think that the OLM is a modular design, but it's not modular in that like you're going to replace it after every time. That makes no sense with SpaceX's rapid reuse, right? But Alex, like 39A, for instance, with the Falcon 9 pad, it has the reaction frame, and they can reconfigure the frame, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like that. Like you could take that off, and you could put another one on in case like a booster crashes into it or something. Like hot swappable launch pad, just in case you need to, right?
And one of the things as well is that, there was this whole debate back in the day, and I still am not 100% sure that they really need to dig that deep.
Right.
My thinking, at least back in the day, and I still am sort of in that same thinking, that they could still have the mount at the same height as the OLM is on pad 1, on pad A, which is essentially at the same height, sort of like at the top of the base of the tower. Maybe even we can show that other. I had to take a screenshot, so it's not as high resolution as I intended it to be. But the top of the OLM for pad A is sort of at the same height as where that concrete base of the tower ends. And one of the other sort of theories that a lot of people were thinking is that in order to fit block 3, because it's huge and taller and everything, they will have the OLM closer to the ground, dig a deep trench underneath, put a diverter and everything, and deal with that, because now it's lower, so then you can put a larger rocket. But my thinking was, if you're putting a larger rocket, it's going to be more powerful. You can just have the OLM being at the same height as before and gain more room for that flame, diverter and everything by digging down. Then you have a lot more room for all that power to exit out and, being able to reuse your launch pad more often.
Yeah, see, that makes that makes perfect sense, dude. I'm totally with you. But where I'm getting confused is, like, you saw they had to drain water out of this thing. The water table around Boca Chica is awfully high, meaning that you don't need to dig that far down to get into water. Look at you saw them. They dug like less.
They have already
dug
found
like
water.
right? They dug like 3 meters down, and they turned it into a freaking swamp in like 2 seconds. Like 39A and 39B have a raised pad structure. And even that raised pad structure is on the blast detonation area kind of plateau, which is raised off of the water table, because you can't dig down in Florida. You dig down, you're going to make a well, right? Same with Boca Chica. So like, that's where I'm kind of like, I mean, you're right, dude. If they want to lower the OLM and put the OLM like maybe at ground height, like if this thing ends up looking like Massey's or something, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to dig down a long way. In which case, your flame trench is basically going to have to work like a boat. It has to be watertight. Or else it's just going to turn into a swimming pool.
They put also all the sheet pilings and everything in order to keep everything, sound and watertight as well. But
right,
as you mentioned, you need to dig down. They have a lot of pilings. You can see some of the pilings that they initially put there already. They're showing because they're digging now, and so they put there in order to stabilize the ground. When they started to dig all of that. And so they are also putting pilings outside to get everything stable and everything, because otherwise everything just caves in. They did the same when they built the upside down shower head at Pad A. They did the same thing. They put the sheet pilings to dig down, but they also strengthened all of the perimeter. And then when they started doing the interior, they put sheet pilings, very deep ones, like those rebar cages that we saw being put down were massively long. And so that's the kind of thing that you need when you want to have a very big structure there. I don't know how it'll look like, I'm going to be honest, but that's my take. I think it kind of makes sense when you have a much powerful rocket. You kind of want to have more room for that exhaust to go out, to be, diverted, right, outside of the thing. And the most simple solution to how do you get to a taller ship is just modify the end of the quick disconnect arm to reach there. Like, you can see, for example, it's probably not the best example, but on Delta IV Heavy, they had this swing arm that had 3 different connections on the booster, and you had like one connection up here, then another one 10 meters down below, and then another one all on the same swing arm. You can have a very similar thing as well with the quick disconnect arm, where you just have a structure that goes up to a taller booster, taller ship, or something like that. You don't need to change the tower, right? But we'll see what they do. I'm definitely looking forward to that. It's one of those things that, keeps me thinking.
I gotta ask though, EJ, while we're still talking about these theories, I have to bring it up now. Ethereal Swordsman, ask EJ about his LC-39A wild theory. Blow our minds.
Guys, this is a horribly wild theory, and it's mostly, this theory is predicated on me wanting to see Starship use the VAB. But like I said, I think the flame trench is the same width because they're going to move Starship operations to 39A. It's just a theory. And once again, it's me coping hard because I want to see a Starship roll out of the VAB. Not stacked. I don't think SpaceX would use the VAB to stack. That makes no sense with the chopsticks, right? But to store Starships. Now, what a lot of people don't know, during the shuttle program in High Bay 2, I think, let's see, it's 1 and 3 on the front side, 2 and 4. In High Bay 2, Actually, no, it's 4. In High Bay 4, NASA stored external tanks in the walls. There's like an external tank bookshelf on the sides of the high bays in the VAB. Like you have 4 bays in there, right? They were all originally supposed to build Saturn V's, and we, for whatever reason, thought that wasn't a good idea. So the 2 back high bays, the ones on the left side of your screen, so the ones with the one with the American flag, that's High Bay 2, and then High Bay 4 is the one adjacent to it on that side, right? That's on the west side of the VAB. They used those 2 high bays to stage parts for the shuttle. And in High Bay 4, they were stacking external tanks like in basically a big external tank bookcase on the sides of the high bay. I think that SpaceX could do that with Starships and basically use that as a payload transfer aisle, and then, move the Starships on a crawler transporter or an SPMT from there to 39A to, launch them, right? Now, I know it sounds like a ridiculous theory, and once again, I just want to see a Starship roll out of the VAB. Like, I'm sorry. I know it's a weird theory, right? Right? But also, at the same time, there's multiple high bays and multiple mega bays at Starbase, right? And SpaceX, we if they're going to, Alex, you're right. Like, if they want to make this thing longer, they're going to need to start moving stuff around. You're going to need a bigger high bay. You have one right here at the Cape. You could put, how big is the door, Sawyer? You could put 400-foot rocket in there. Remember, SpaceX doesn't need the mobile launcher unless they use the OLMs as a mobile launcher, right? Like, it's possible.
If we're talking just not the full stack rocket, but just the stages.
Mm-hmm.
The VAV is big enough to have 2 super heavy boosters stacked on top. Like, you could, in theory, just have 2 super heavy boosters stacked on top, and it will still fit through the door. You can roll out very large stages out of there if you're only rolling out stages and not the full rocket.
Yeah, but High Bay. Go ahead, Sawyer. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but we talked about in the recent flyover, they're doing a huge land clearing over at Roberts Road. There's, I believe, also an article just posted about that at NASASpaceflight.com. Yep. But we're talking a massive, massive area. I feel like that's where everything's going to be for Starship. It would kind of be nice to have that intermediary, like you're talking about, maybe a holding bay inside of the VAB. But if you're clearing all that land, we're talking, 40, 50 acres? We're talking about as big as 43. The entire production site? Thank you.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, so
that's gotta be for all of it.
Earlier in the video, I'm seeing Kevin preparing the flyover video. Way earlier, we talk about Roberts Road at first. You know already the structure of these videos. Yeah, so there, if you've watched our flyover video there that we're showing it, they're building a huge tent. It's earlier in the video, way earlier. So we talk about this big tent that they are building right now. It is bigger. You remember all of those tents that they built at the production site for Starship? This is larger. This is like way longer. It's about the same width, but it's a lot longer. If you look at the only tent that remains right now that is a big tent at Starbase, that is the receiving tent at Sanchez, this is still like 20 meters longer. This is 140 meters long, 40 meters wide. It can fit a Starship full stack horizontally within it multiple times because it's 40 meters wide. So you can, put a bunch of these horizontally if you were able to do that. It's a big tent. Why will they need such a big tent when they already have Hangar X and Hangar X2 for all their Falcon, Dragon, and even Starship heat shield needs, right? I don't know. Maybe, big building, big tent kind of sounds like Starship, right?
You can tell who wrote
Starship
that section,
size.
who edited that part.
literally, Max is showing you that kind of tent kind of speaks like Starship big. And a little bit later there, we talk about this whole expansion that they are planning. And the first phase, it is 43 acres, which is 2 times as big as the Star Factory area. And that is that part that we talk about. And phase 1, this is just phase 1 of the north expansion at Roberts Road, it is nearly 43 acres. It can fit the entirety of the Starbase production site from the garage, the garage parking building that they have built with the mural and everything, all the way down the road to the office building. That's how big that area is. The entire thing can fit in there. So, like, and they're gonna be. We've seen already some moves that they may be starting to build that out in the next few months. We're gonna keep looking an eye on that. But they have a big tent being built at Roberts Road, which really speaks out. This is gonna be for Starship, and they are about to clear area at the north for that big expansion. I don't know about you, but that kind of also speaks. We're doing Starship stuff very soon. That's sort of what we put out on that flyover. Whether is it gonna happen really in the next few months? Is that gonna happen? But EJ, I do agree with you that we might see Starships being in the VAB because
Yep.
there's been for a long time this theory or rumors. Even Eric Berger has been hearing about this, that maybe High Bay 1 on the VAB has been leased to SpaceX. This is like a rumor, right? Like, woo, 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 alert,
Yeah.
rumor, right? We probably need something like that on the Flame Trench, because we talk multiple times about rumors and whatnot. But that is,
Rumor music.
rumor
All right,
music.
let's go.
But in theory, they could store vehicles there that they may build on those tents. Now, on those tents, they can only build battle sections, but you can think of High Bay 1 being turned into some kind of mega bay kind of thing where they stack ships and boosters, at least for the first time, while they build out that big, huge extension to the north that I said can fit the entire production site of Starbase. It's going to take a while to develop all of that. But if they really want to launch next year, as Elon was saying, he wants Starship to launch from Florida next year, they really need to get starting with all of that. And the only way to get that is build, or maybe, they could even go one step beyond that and say, we're going to ship, instead of making those battle sections inside of that new tent, we're going to make them at the Star Factory and barge them over to the Kennedy. That could also be the case, but, we'll see what they do. I'm going to, I already told our Cape folks, keep an eye on that, because SpaceX doesn't build big tents out of the blue. Just saying.
No, you're right. SpaceX, not Blue.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we're getting to that point of the show.
I made the same joke as you, Sawyer. I don't know how to feel about that now.
All right, then let's hit a few more quick questions here. There were two I promised earlier that I need to go back and hit. Ground umbilical carrier plate was saying, been thinking about the fire at landing. Purposeful venting or bad seals?
It looks like it's on purpose to me. It looks like it's on purpose. In fact, Alex, you and I talked about this like the day after it happened, right?
Yeah.
We did see that on Flight 4. Flight 4 did that same kind of outgassing, and if you cast your mind back to Hoppy did the same thing too.
Hoppy.
So it's clearly hippity hoppity. It's clear that it's something that's intentional. Whether it's like something that will keep happening in the future, we don't know, because you remember like the early tank watching, they had the methane, the flare stack, right? And then SN4 happened, and that didn't end well. So it's clear that the design can change. It's in flux, right?
And at least looking at the footage when we saw that fire coming out, it is coming out from what we believe to be the methane bleed line. So when the booster is connected, we're gonna have an upcoming. It's on the Raptor video. We're explaining that on that video. When the booster and the ship are connected to the ground, they use everything that they can from the ground. So starting the outer 20 engines, for example, that is done with the ground umbilicals that connect to the outer 20 engines. The center 13 engines are also connected through the main quick disconnect. The engine chill, for example, is also when you chill down the Raptors, you have gaseous oxygen and gaseous methane being produced because you're cooling down the engine, but you're also heating up the things that you're using to cool down the engine, right? Which is liquid oxygen and liquid methane. The liquid oxygen is collected from those engines and then dumped overboard somewhere else. In the case of the methane, though, you cannot just dump it anywhere, right? They have a collecting, essentially through the main quick disconnect, they have this bleed line in order to be able to recapture that methane and send it back to the tank farm. That's why they have this whole recondenser thing and whatnot. What I think is happening, and I've been talking about that with other folks as well, is that in order to chill down the engines for the landing burn, they need to run that vent throughout the reentry burn.
Mm-hmm.
And either that vent was still going while it was doing the landing burn without really needing to run that vent, or it was just stuck or something like that, or it was either on purpose because it needed to keep running right while the engines were running, or at some point it got stuck and that thing just kept venting. We don't know. We'll probably figure it out with further landings.
What we do
I'd
know
say
is that they caught a booster.
They caught a booster.
They caught a
They
booster.
did? When?
I don't know.
When will then be now? Soon.
Soon. Dude, I don't know. I just, every time we see that landing footage, my brain's just like, wait, what's going on here? Yeah, whoa, it did that. That's pretty cool.
Not too shabby.
No, it's pretty neat. You tell it's a caught booster because of the way it is. It's pretty neat.
There were a lot of people as well, like concerned about, it's on fire and everything. Early Falcon 9s, I remember, they went up in flames at the aft end, and they got that nailed down. You still see from time to time. It's normal. Like that thing is putting out more thrust than a Saturn V at launch, doing that landing burn with those 13 engines. You're gonna see fire either way. The whole deal is to minimize it and build a rocket to survive that. That's what they need to get to. Falcon 9 did it.
And then the other question that I promised we would get back to from Ben Creasy with their hot take on what your thoughts are on this. Starship and Super Heavy are not one integrated system. They're two vehicles with an integrated launch operation. We already know they need 5 variations on Starship as is. How long until someone develops their own ship? So what's your thought on that hot take that they're actually not one integrated system, just one integrated launch operation?
Go, EJ.
What does this seem to imply? It seems to imply that they're going to put something else on top of Super Heavy. I'm really confused. I don't really understand.
I think because they're saying that there's an HLS variant of the ship, a tanker variant of the ship, a Starlink deployer variant.
Yeah, okay.
That means that it's different.
I don't. No. I don't think so. I think the right way to think about this is SpaceX wants to achieve airliner-like operations with going to space. That's what they want to do. That's their stated goal, right? Sawyer, Alex, you guys agree on that? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going to do that, you got to stop thinking about it like a rocket. You got to start thinking about it like an airplane. All right? So what is Super Heavy in this regard? Super Heavy is your I was going to say it's more like your landing gear than anything. But I mean, obviously you're not going to be completely analogous to an airplane, right? But it's more like your landing gear. Think about it like that. And then think about the different variants of Starship. Now, once again, I know someone's going to be like, "What? But wait, EJ, don't different versions of Starship have landing?" Yes. We're talking about integrated system versus non-integrated system, right? Just because that the Super Heavy basically is your landing gear and launching gear in this kind of idea. I mean, you launch and land in an aircraft, you launch and land on the same landing gear, unless there are some case exceptions, right? I know. And if you think about it like that, the variants of Starship are just kind of like the variants of an aircraft, right? But every think about like a DC-10. A DC-10 has the DC-10 passenger variant. It has the DC-10 cargo variant, and then there's the KC-10, which was just recently retired, which is the refueling variant, right? Think about it like different variations of an airplane, right? But all those airplanes still have the same landing gear, right? All these different variations of Starships are just variations of the Starship, but they all have the same landing gear. They all have the same booster. You know, I don't really see a thing like where you change out like major systems engineering on your Starship to get it to operate kind of like independently. I like to think that this is one integrated system, and Super Heavy, despite jettisoning, is the landing gear for Starship and launching gear. Like I said, you take off on the landing gear, right? So yeah, that's how I like to think about it. What do you guys think?
EJ, I'm surprised you did not mention at any point. Like,
I know,
so
that was my thought. That was my thought.
what? Okay, what's your thought? I'll let you go first.
I know what you guys are going to think I was going to say. No. It's not like the shuttle. It's not the same thing.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about, old rockets. Even Falcon 9 has different versions of the second stage. Like, this whole thing of you need different versions of the ship to accomplish different missions, and it's like, but isn't that like many other rockets that have already happened? Like Delta 4 had a 4-meter variant of the upper stage, and then a 5-meter variant, and then you had different fairing configurations. Like, actually having different configurations of your rocket, it's sort of like old space if you think about that. Because Atlas 5, Delta had a bunch of other configurations. Vulcan will also have a bunch of other configurations as well. Falcon 9, the upper stage, can have the extended mission kit, the medium extension kit, the Starlink Velcros that they have already, as well, which they put there for the the release rods and everything. They have these Velcro pads to be able to hold them in place when they deploy. Like, they have these many differences between different missions and everything. That's sort of how it works. You kind of need to build the upper stage that works for your rocket, and sometimes even your first stage for the mission that you're accomplishing, right? It's like, it's not new. It's not at all new. It's not. And those were considered integrated, rockets, because it's flying in that. It's just that it's flying on a different configuration. That is all.
EJ, there's such a confused look on your face.
I mean, I guess if you want to make that argument, but despite having two different upper stage, it's still one rocket.
Stubby Nozzle, someone mentioning that.
That's what I said earlier. I said Stubby, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess that brings in the question of, is an Atlas V 401 different from a 541, different from a 551? Are those different vehicles? Same with, like you were talking about, Delta 4 Medium Plus, Delta 4 Heavy. Are those then technically different rockets?
But then you also go into, like, is it also, like, for example, different boosters from Falcon 9 fleet? They are in different, so they have Block 5, but then within Block 5, this is no secret, they have different sub-blocks kind of thing. And they have, like, different, and we've seen that, because even, like, how to mate the intrastage to the tank section, we've seen those changes. Like, before B1056, for example, you see a type of connection between the intrastage and the tankage section, and then after that, you see a different one, which, later meant a whole different sequencing of different reuses and everything. But, like, we see that there are changes within the block. Does that mean that when you fly, for example, with booster B1063 is different than when you're flying with B1078, for example? Like,
that's what I was thinking of. I was going to say, I mean, sure, there are missions that Columbia would not be able to fly that Endeavour would, if you're going back to shuttle, because I know that's where everyone thought that was going to go. Different orbiters, different weights, different things like that. So are those different vehicles? I mean, yes and no. It's the same design, it's the same integration with those, just slightly different builds. I guess that's kind of how you have to look at this, is that they're different ways of integration because they're different builds, but in the end, they're stacked the same, they're separated the same, they're launched the same. So I feel like it still counts. You're not going to not call it a super heavy launch just because it has a tanker variant.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. On that one, Sawyer. Like, you know, we say Starship HLS, we say Starship Refueler, Starship Depot. We don't say, oh, Depot version heavy or you know, lunar lander version of super heavy. It's all one integrated system with different variations. Like, I don't think, you know, the argument that, like, you know, oh, it's like Delta 4 medium or Delta 5-4 medium or Delta 4-5 medium plus or Delta 4 heavy. Well, those are all different names. Those, like, but they still have Delta, right? But they're not designing it that way. They designed with that variation for Delta for maximum flexibility of mission to keep costs low, right? SpaceX isn't looking to do that because they're looking to do airliner-like operations. You don't want to have a different variant for the mission every time with airliner-like operations. You want to build one thing that can pretty much do everything and then make variants of that to specialize in those tasks. Like a 747, for instance. 747 was designed for passengers, right? And it was built to just be the end-all, be-all, you know, until we moved to supersonic transports in the 70s. You know, because that worked out, right? And then we found all these different variations that the 747 can do. There actually was an in-flight refueler version of the 747 made. It was actually modified to Spirit of Everett, the prototype 747 that's at the Museum of Flight in Seattle. It has a refueling boom on it. It's the only 747 that does that, right? And then obviously, like, there's the presidential 747s, VC-25. VC-25 can be in-flight refueled. That's a variant of the 747. There's obviously the shuttle carrier aircraft, which personally are my favorites. You know, NASA 911 and NASA 905, right? And then there's the Dream Lifter version of the 747, which is a heavily modified cargo variant of the 747, right? And then there's just the 747 cargo variant. There's 747s that have a longer upper deck or a shorter upper deck. Like, that's kind of where I think Starship is going. They're gonna basically make one type of, you know, good design, right? And then they're gonna make the variants based off of that. Also, shout out to Joe Sutter, the chief engineer on the 747, legend. What an amazing aircraft. Queen of the skies for a reason.
By the way, I do want to just point out the person who originally asked the question has responded a couple of times, saying a plane doesn't land in two different places, different planes for different jobs, and HLS is not a tanker. Also adding that a Saturn V booster is part of the Saturn V rocket. Super Heavy is not a Starship. 2 vehicles, 1 flight. I will die on this hill.
It's not... Okay, hang on. A Saturn V booster is part of the Saturn V rocket. Super Heavy is not a Starship, but it's a part of Starship. Like, you see what I mean, right? You cannot say two different things. The S1C first stage of the Saturn V was the first stage of that rocket. Super Heavy is the first stage of Starship. Like, I don't know if I'm following here what they're thinking, but like, if you think you can just separate 2 vehicles, 1 flight, Saturn V had 3 vehicles, 1 flight too, right? You could even argue 2 flights because it had the lunar module and had a launch out of the moon. Like, if we're getting that exquisite, you know, with our namings, that's how it will be. Saturn V booster is part of the Saturn V rocket. The Starship booster, which is Super Heavy, it's also part of Starship, right? Like, I don't understand that sort of, you know, train of thought.
Alex, I'm kind of with you. I don't. So, like, you know, guy wants to die on this hill. Why? Why? Why do you want to die on this hill?
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
You don't
get
need
it. What
to.
Are you talking about?
It's
man?
okay. Like, your opinion is as valid
point?
as everyone. It's like, I'm saying this that I'm not following, and that's totally okay. Maybe I just need to actually talk more with this person. I will love to, like, really, if we had more time. Obviously, we've been already 3 hours on this flame show. It's a good interest. Like, it's a very good, interesting whole debate, right? Like, do we consider it different? I do spreadsheets, as you all know. So this is a very big deal for
You?
me when I do the
No.
spreadsheets. How do I consider things and everything? But you know,
Very
I just- I
spicy
don't-
I
indeed.
guess
I
this
just don't-
music
yeah.
already means that we're wrapping up. I guess.
No,
I
no,
do want to
no,
thank
no.
some people
Yeah.
here, though.
No, shut that music off. We're gonna keep going for another 3 hours. Shut that music off right now. Oh, he did it. Oh,
Thank you,
crap. All
Kevin.
right, now
Let
I
me at
feel
least thank
bad.
some people first before you
go
start
ahead.
playing us off, okay? Least I can do. Ethereal Swordsman, I'm sorry we've been messing up your KSP save all night, saying now you made me forget to shut off my engines. Have fun in Moho. Sawyer
Nice.
B, not me. Thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Capcom and above gets access to the Discord, including the post-show that will happen after this wraps up here. We got a bunch of stuff coming in from the store. Jurg saying thank you for the live broadcast and great stuff. Greetings from Germany. We got the mouse pad. We've got one of the awesome prints from our very own Max Evans coming in. And then we have a one of the knitted holiday sweaters, which make sure you get those orders in ahead of time so you can get it before Christmas, coming up soon on that deadline. So check it out if you want them at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Roseanne also pointing out we do need flame trench design emerges, getting an item from the shop there as well. When do we flame trench merch? When?
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we need to ask Pauline.
Also, I forgot we had the spiral notebooks. That one's cool.
Meanwhile, you know what burns on a flame trench? Engines. You also have that. The RS-25. Well,
That
I
is
have
true.
the Merlin. There you go. The thrust you can trust. And you have the RS-25.
Yes, I'm wearing the RS-25 shirt today.
There you go.
There we go. Wiz, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Jim Cavett, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Matt PD saying V2 booster would then be like going to the MD-22. We've got Gilliam pointing out about the SpaceX permit. SpaceX had a general stormwater permit. They needed an industrial wastewater direct discharge permit, just as bad as what Blue did. There's a lot to that.
No,
Ian Traeger,
I disagree.
thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Look at all
Saying.
those patches.
Just saying. Flight
Okay.
6 is coming.
I have seen the Flight 6 patch. It is freaking amazing. Matt Goslar, thank you over the course, gifting 30 different Red Team memberships. So Matt, thank you so much for the 10, followed by the 10, followed by the 10. And last but not least, of course, Space Pope, the Space Pope, with the $50 super chat saying, Space be with you. Space be with you
also
for
with
joining
you.
us here today, EJ.
Oh, and also with you, Sawyer. Wait. No, thank you very much, guys. I know I get spicy with things. I'm trying to have a good time, trying to get good discussion in. So yeah, you know, some of the ideas that I have about stuff are a little weird, but I do appreciate you know, you guys letting me on here and having a good time, having some good discussion. So thank you, and thank you everybody for watching. I do appreciate it.
Alex, space be with you too. Thanks for joining.
And with your soul. It's been a pleasure. You know, I always like the spiciness of the flame trench. And if you don't like it, you know, just don't get in the flame trench.
Just watch Twist.
Exactly, just watch Twist. I know a lot of
But-
people are always all like, they're just rambling. You get the raw news just with Alicia on Twist every Friday before
But the
flame
problem
trench.
is you don't get the gifts. First, I want to thank our launch directors and flight engineers, though. The highest levels of support that we have here at NSF. It still amazes me, all of those names. Thank you to everyone for all of the generous support so we can do what we do. And of course, thank you to the KMR, Kevin, Michael, Reed, for pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and putting people in jail. I paid my bail. I paid my bail.
Yeah, as that said, if you can take the heat, get out of the flame trench. Yeah?
Hey, Jack joined us.
You could say that with Twist and Alicia, that's cooler.
I paid my bail. I was stuck in jail, but now we are out. And obviously, EJ agrees.
Yeah.
Thumbs up worthy.
Yeah, hit that thumbs up. See, yeah, you see the GIF? Do the GIF thing.
Can we dance?
Of course course we can. I mean, we're just giving more fodder to LSR who helps put the gifts together, but there's Alex in jail.
Yeah, because I said Jackie.
The cat.
Oh,
The cat.
Jake.
The cat's looking at him like, what is he doing?
E.G.
I do call him Jakey, okay?
It's like, Thrust!
You know,
Best!
best, thrust,
I
best.
love how we still know what even those gifts are. It's just thrust, thrust.
You put me in jail. Yeah, you put me in jail for that. You put me in jail for that. I'm just saying what. I was just reading what was on the screen, man.
Please, give us more money.
Thrust,
That's
thrust,
NASA to Congress, please.
thrust.
Thrust.
Rip Delta 4 Heavy. You were saying about dancing. There you go.
I like that. I like that one.
Received.
Oh no.
What? What?
Oh no.
What's that?
Don't tell me
Who's
we're
going
all
to
in
jail?
Oh, okay, good. It's Jack.
Oh, okay, cool. I was about to
Wait,
run
where
if
am
you were
I?
gonna put me in
Where
jail.
did I go? Oh, there we go.
There, we see.
Well-
I told you guys. We've cloned Jack. That's how you have like beardless Jack
Yeah.
and bearded Jack and mullet Jack. Like we've found a way to clone him. That's how he's everywhere at once. That's why you just saw two. Saw two Jacks there. I don't know. Go back in the pod. Look, there's two.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Flamey Trenchy, and we will see you for the nexty. Thank you,
Don't do that
everyone, again for watching, and later, nerdsy.
Don't do that again.
I won't.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside speed off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Decollage! Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? We don't need any more of these.